I have 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the January 7th, 2025 Village Board meeting to order. Irv Actionschlager, will you lead us in the pledge, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Tracy.
President Cohen.
Here.
Trustee Michaels.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Trustee Lindy.
Here.
Trustee Heron.
Here.
Trustee Bonnie.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Thank you, everyone. We do have a quorum this evening. Nothing under public hearings. Under appointments and presentations, we have a few things. We have a presentation of a proclamation honoring Irv Actionschlager. But first, I would like to start with Mary Actionschlager. Come on up. So just for a refresher for everyone here, you don't have to come right in here. We did do a proclamation for you in spring, and it was during National Volunteer Week, and for all that you do. You weren't here because we did a bad job communicating. So this evening, I would like to read this proclamation for you. So it was a proclamation during National Volunteer Week, April 21st through the 27th of 2024, honoring Mary Actionschlager. Whereas the Village of Sugar Grove is joining other cities nationwide to celebrate National Volunteer Week in honor of community volunteers. And whereas we celebrate and pay tribute to the amazing efforts of volunteers every day. And whereas volunteers are an invaluable resource, and they are at the heart and soul of our village, county and nation. Whereas during Volunteer Week, we honor Mary Actionschlager for her exceptional dedication to volunteering. And whereas Mary has been volunteering at the Bliss Woods Forest Preserve as a steward for the last 17 years, her primary responsibility is to plan work days that occur on the 4th Saturday of each month. As part of her role, she is in charge of gathering all the necessary equipment, coordinating with volunteers, and creating a plan for each work day. And whereas Mary is a member of the Kane County Forest Preserve Foundation, working to offer opportunities for the Forest Preserve. And whereas for 10 years, Mary volunteered at St. Catherine Drexel and the Between Friends Food Pantry, providing help wherever needed. And whereas Mary's incredible contributions to our community, whether lending a helping hand or simply being a source of encouragement, extend far and beyond the tasks she undertakes. Her kindness, generosity, and unwavering commitment have made a significant impact, making the world a brighter place. Now, therefore, I, Jennifer Cohen, Village President of Sugar Grove, located in the great state of Illinois, hereby declare April 21st through the 27th as National Volunteer Week, and it is worth the utmost honor and gratitude that we recognize Mary Actionschlager for her selfless contributions to our community. On behalf of the Village Board and the citizens of the Village of Sugar Grove, we express our heartfelt thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it was with the utmost gratitude and pride that we get to work with all the people of Sugar Grove. We love this community.
Thank you, Mary.
The work days are on 4 to 7.
You never stop. You never stop. Now, I didn't sign this one. You did get your official one, didn't you?
I did.
Okay, okay. Oh, yes, let's take a vote. Thank you. Okay, and her better half, Irv, would you mind coming up? I've got something for you, so we'll do the same thing with you, sir. Yours is a little different. So this is a proclamation for Irv Actionschlager Day, January 7th, 2025. Whereas Irv Actionschlager has been a dedicated and committed member of the Village of Sugar Grove community since moving to the area in 1975. I'm just going to look at you to make sure we got our facts right. Whereas Irv joined the Village of Sugar Grove Planning Commission in 1980, demonstrating his deep commitment to the growth and development of the community. And whereas Irv served as chairman of the Village of Sugar Grove Planning Commission beginning in 1990 until his recent retirement in 2024, providing valuable leadership and guidance in shaping the future of Sugar Grove. Whereas Irv served as a trustee of the Sugar Grove Township Board from 1976 to 1986, contributing to the continued success and prosperity of the township. And whereas Irv has generously volunteered his time and effort to help with the Bliss Woods volunteer workdays, maybe not by choice, showing his ongoing dedication to the environment and community beautification. And whereas Irv is a proud father of 4 children and a grandfather of 4 grandchildren, with his loving wife, Mary, supporting him throughout his many years of service to the community. And whereas Irv his tireless dedication, leadership, and service to the Village of Sugar Grove community have left a lasting positive impact on the people in the area he deeply cares for. Now therefore, I, Jennifer Cohen, President of the Village of Sugar Grove, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and all the residents, would like to recognize and honor Irv Oxenschlager for his outstanding contributions and service to the Village of Sugar Grove community, and are proud to declare January 7th, 2025 as Irv Oxenschlager Day in the Village of Sugar Grove. Thank you, sir. I'll show you that.
Oh.
Let's take a quick photo. Stay right here.
Or they didn't even give you 24 hours.
Hold on, Irv. So we had a little something made up for you.
Oh, boy.
So it's a nice wood carving of all Sugar Grove here, so that you always remember your service
Oh,
and
thank you.
dedication.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Picture?
Yeah. He likes photos.
Oh, beautiful women. Thank you. Thank you all. It's been an honor to be on the Planning Commission. I want to thank those members of the Planning Commission that are here. A very dedicated group. I want to thank past members of the Planning Commission. I've been on it for 44 years. I've been delighted the way the village has planned it and developed what we've got. I particularly want to thank the staff. The Planning Commission wouldn't have anything to do if it wasn't for the fine staff you've got. And Scott and Bravo now is the new one. The one I've got to thank the most is Danny.
Danny.
She's the one that tells me what to do. She tells me what I do wrong. She tells me to hit the gavel. And so I want to thank you, Danny, for all that our relationship we've had has been wonderful. And I'll continue to make sure the Planning Commission does what it's supposed to do.
Good, thank you.
So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Irv. I just asked for a motion to accept the proclamation honoring Irv Oxenschlager.
So moved. Second.
And first on trustee White, second on trustee Karen. Roll call, please.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Shomas?
Aye.
President Conan?
Aye, thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you again to the Oxenschlagers for all your hard work dedication. Feel free to stay in or leave, whatever you choose to do. But up next, we do have a presentation from Cordigan and Clark of the proposed police department renovations. Brian, Chief Fleet, sorry.
Good evening. Just a little background from where we are at today. Back in 1992, this building was constructed. That was a little over 33 years ago. So the space that we're occupying was primarily built to house admin, finance, member of community development, the police department, and the village boardroom. So this space has been great when it was built and the way it was designed, and as the village grew, department's size grew as well, and at the same times, our sizes shrunk depending on the economy. So it served its purpose, and just like any other tired commercial building, it needs to be renovated. And when I got here in 2013, I think my main desire was to try to overcome some of the challenges that we saw on the police side. And some of those were making sure that we had modern amenities, that we reduced our liabilities, improved our operational efficiencies and our safety. And a lot of the officers that are here present today saw some of the things that transpired since this building has been built. The building has been renovated a few times. The back room in the officer area was our garage, Sally Port. That had to be converted space because there was really no workspace for the officers. They were basically just out on the street, and the other space that's on that PD side was very limited to a few offices and then the secure booking area. On the front half of this building, the roof line changed since its original design. The exterior doors that are up right out here did not have extended roof line that went up and over it, so it was all exposed to the elements. And then they added a wall that I believe community development had installed for one of the community development directors could spend half their time over here at the Village Hall. So it's been renovated a few times, and we've had carpeting and some painting that has been done. But other than that, it's basically as is from 1992, and it's been good to us, but there's a lot more that needs to be done for us to be a safe and operational police department. So back in the early 2000s, the village board, along with staff, heard concerns about operational efficiencies and safety. So that was quite a while ago. It's 25 years ago when this all started floating about. In 2006 timeframe, the village board entered an agreement with William Architects as the lead architect, and also Gordon Clark and others to provide input into the drawings. And they made forth such a great, they put forth an effort that a building across the street was going to be constructed in the northwest corner. But the economy turned, and the village board had the foresight to slow it down, look fiscally responsible, and probably made the right decision not to build that building and have to worry about monies, how they were going to pay for it, and also to provide services to the village. So I give credit to the village board, and I know it was hard on staff because a lot of them were promised that they were going to have a new police department when they were hired. Sometimes that happens to us in our family life, sometimes that happens to us in our homes or in other businesses. So, but the same safety concerns and liabilities that existed back in the day that they brought these things forward to get these plans built exist today, except it's been magnified and the way that law enforcement is looked at. And then we're also been striving to get accredited, but we have some gaps, we have some deficiencies that we need to meet for the building to overcome it. And we want to get the support of the village board and making sure that we can become an accredited police agency. Working through some of the secured spaces, the way that the building was originally designed, you had on the police side, we only had a couple of offices up front, and then to get to the back, you had to walk through secured booking area. And that just wasn't built correctly back in the day. It doesn't function right. You shouldn't be having officers trace through the booking area to get to the other side of the building. And that, unfortunately, was the way it was designed, but that's what they worked through, and that's what we've overcome since the building's been designed. 2 years ago, the Finance and Administration relocated to the 160 South Municipal Building. It opened up this other half of the space for us as a police department to get a little bit more growth, move some more offices over on this side. However, the operational efficiencies and moving between one side of the building to the other, we have to come through public space to bring victims through or witnesses or bad individuals through has caused some concerns. So we really have still two buildings within one. And that's what we're trying to do, is overcome along with other amenities, so. To address the concerns, the village, like I said, back in 2006, entered into the agreement, spent a lot of money, created a great plan, and some of that information is still valid today, but things changed since 2006, so we can't use the same plan that was in place, because policing has changed, operations have changed, and the technology has changed that's gone into it. So some of the goals that occurred in the last couple of years is that we entered into a space needs study with Williams Architects, and it was a study only and to provide some conceptual plans. They came forward to the board. They also presented those conceptual plans and the results of the space needs studies. The working committee, we went through them. We still struggled with some of the plans. It still wasn't going to flow efficiently for us and provide the space that we needed. So we looked elsewhere, and we brought in Gordon Clark, who's also been involved in many governmental build-outs as well as remodels of existing buildings and brand new buildings. So we've been very fortunate over the past 3 months, I think starting in September, more than 3 months now. We've had our virtual meetings, in-person meetings, and we worked through some concept plans, some designs, some thoughts. We made some modifications, that we set up some goals, just to make sure that we provide the best services, making sure that this building's going to be a little bit longer term than it, to keep it in place for a lot longer than having to go out and build a new one. We also looked at building a new building and what the costs were, but we think we can make it work here for quite a while. And as the village ever grows exponentially, then you may have to look at a new facility. But that's like any other village. Again, you got 32 years worth out of this building, and I anticipate you'll get some more as well. So I'd like to introduce Brian from Gordon and Clark, and he's going to walk us through some of the concept plans that the working committee reviewed, and we'll open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you all for your patience tonight. You have a packet in front of you too that shows a number of images to walk you through. The first image, can I advance the slide in any way?
Yeah.
Thank you. Chief's being very, very, very kind about some of the limitations this building has, and we've had the pleasure of working with a couple of agencies. The most current one was the City of Yorkville, and their police station was a combined city hall and police station in a similar kind of residential-ish structure. And they had similar challenges with their building, so it was nice to be able to actually use some of those lessons learned on the Yorkville project to take into account for the village of Sugar Grove. First images are strictly just rehashing what the existing conditions are on your current site. You can see the images there. You have the two, secure parking and public parking to the north. The building, as Chief indicated, has some very significant limitations with the bifurcation of the village boardroom and public spaces, separating the two police agency spaces, with the original police station on the left and the original city or village hall admin offices to the right. So that needed to be resolved, and we looked at a lot of different potential planning options to resolve that. You have here just some bird's eye renderings of the existing conditions of the architecture and the exterior aesthetic of the building. That really hasn't changed a lot from the original planning and design of the building. So we're looking at trying to do some refresh to that, which will show you some imagery on that. The main impetus to resolve this was, number one, make sure the public space such as this boardroom was not going to be an impediment to being able to resolve the situation. The other one was the need to add space for evidence storage and a sally port. Those were the primary reasons why the expansion needed to take place. And looking forward to the police growth, this should accommodate growth for at least the next 10 years. So we've accommodated growth for the next 10 years. So you'll see the addition, and it'll show up here in the plan as I walk you through that, to the left side of the original police facility. So just taking a walk through, and we'll do it from the public side, if you will, the north side. As you can see, we infilled the depression for the vestibule to make it a secure vestibule. We have a line of secure glazing, bullet-resistant glazing, and bullet-resistant doors in that secure vestibule. So there is a requirement for protection for a police facility, and that does accommodate that. And then to the right, there is, excuse me, to the left is a door to get to another hallway going along the north side of the building to get back to the administrative area of the building. Or you could, if allowed in, go into the double doors to get into another lobby space where there is a small toilet facility. There's also a soft interview room in the blue. And then off to the right as you walk in, there is a records transaction counter window that you can pass records through to the public from that secure vestibule without actually entering into the facility. So that kind of gets you into the public lobby, and then the administrative function. As you go to the right, you have the administrative officers, chief's office, deputy office, a small toilet room, conference room. There's a called a lactation room, and then a janitor's closet, which is what JC is the acronym for. Then you have the break room, kitchenette for the staff to utilize, which currently they use the existing kitchenette that was there from the original Village Hall, but previously to that it was very limited to what they had for that type of activity. And then records and clerk spaces in the pink with another toilet associated with that, and an office space just to the south of that. The space where currently the village board will be utilized for primarily report writing for officers, for patrol officers. There's duty bag along the exterior exit corridor going out to the secure parking where the squads are, which accommodate the at least 32 duty bags for current officers and future growth. And then to accommodate the locker space, which is woefully inadequate today, where it's currently located, we are going to utilize modern lockers that have ventilation, they have power associated with them, and it's really an appropriate locker situation for the staff to use. And in lieu of doing a male and female, we have been doing this for many of our police agency designs, using a gender neutral locker space where you take your belongings, and then if you're changing, you need to go to one of the changing/shower toilet rooms, which are to the right. And there are two of those to accommodate any changing that needs to take place with that level. The existing storage mechanical room, which is right over here, will remain, and we'll be upgrading all the equipment associated with the HVAC. And then if you're going to the left, then on plan view, there is a pretty good size, it's kind of a multi-use space that is used for training, roll call, maybe some community space. And there's a lot of different configurations that the seating could take into account. This one is just a circle, rectangle space, which has about, I think, 18 seats to it. If you did a classroom style, you could get up to, I think, 28 seats in there. And then if you just did chairs and others, you could get a more concentrated level of accommodations. To the right of that, there's a small little kitchenette, if you will, with a sink and some casework and counters to put some miscellaneous things out for any activities that might take place in that training facility. To the left of that, with the door off of the training, is a storage space. This is really going to be very helpful to allow you to take the tables and chairs that fold up and stack, and then put those away into the storage, and potentially open up that entire space for physical training, defensive tactics. So that gives it some flexibility, additional flexibility. And then to the left of that is really the secure area. there's a couple of things to look at from a security standpoint. So now I'm gonna flip you guys to if you're in custody, okay? So coming in a squad, you would come through the secure parking, go into the sally port, which is to the west and south, and there is a sally port door, and you go in there to secure the vehicle, secure the individual, drop your weapon, and then take them into basically booking. And they're getting processed in booking. If there's any reason to hold them for a few hours until the county sheriff picks them up, there are 2 holding cells, as well as a toilet facility for people in custody. Right immediately attached to that are 2 interview rooms that also have double doors to them, so the detectives or others across the hallway could also use an entry into there and get immediate access to any individuals being interviewed that are in custody. So there are 2 of those, and then to the north of that, where there is the detective office, which would be a shared office. To the left of that is a digital forensics, which could also double as a potential office expansion as needed for that activity, and then an armory to the left of that. Going from the evidence standpoint, so evidence right now is barely functional. Is that kind of saying?
It's offsite, just a reminder, there's no evidence that's stored there, it's all offsite. So it's also efficiencies in going to pick it up and going to the secure location and getting it out. This will also be temperature, climate controlled, so that DNA or anything else should be maintained at proper temperatures at all day.
Right. So the nice thing about this is a modern evidence facility. So you'll have a bag and tag, an evidence processing mini lab to the left of that, and then there are pass-through lockers that are lockable only on one side, or both sides, but only access from one side at a time. Modern evidence storage lockers that can allow the evidence technician to retain the chain of custody ultimately, which is important in today's law enforcement. And then there are some open storage areas that will have shelving. And then to the north of that, you see it's called really compact shelving, which is on rollers. It's very common to see that because it's very efficient to allow you to store a lot more evidence over time than just open shelving, because they roll and you can get a lot more space utilization out of it. To the right of that is really just general mechanical and some additional storage. Left of the sally port is also for potential large evidence. If you have a vehicle that's in custody, if you wanted to process it there, you could do it there. So that's the plan. I'm going to just, if that's okay, get you through some of the renderings. Chief, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, can you just go back? I'm going to point out some of the items that we currently don't have today, if that's okay. When you walk into this facility now, we don't have a soft interview room. We don't have a place to talk. Could you just come up? Yes, I'm sorry. We don't have when you walk into the facility today, if we have a family, a victim family that wants to give us a statement, we don't have a space to take them to. So this boardroom, this large boardroom, it's not the best use for someone to give a statement to us. So this gets used a lot. We have a secured interview room, but it's in booking. So they don't feel comfortable in there. So we're missing a soft interview room. This will take care of that, as well as the opportunity to break up the space, allow us to flow, but not having to pass through the lobby constantly and walking past other individuals. It doesn't have, our arsenal will be outside the security area. That's not today the case, and that's a major concern. It's also a liability. We don't typically have a roll call room or a training room, which this, will open it up for us. And if we have a major crime incident that takes place in town, other agencies will send investigators to help us. We'll be able to utilize the space up front where they're not running through the rest of the building to and then taking over the entire building. Honestly, we'll have some control as well as it open it up if we need to for community events or for school training. What are some of the other items that, obviously our lockers, if anyone's seen our lockers, they're probably 8 inches wide. They're old, I'll call it a junior high style, they're double stacked. So they're 8 inches to maybe 10 inches, and not even that they're saying. So, and you know, maybe 2 to 2.5 feet tall. So you can't even get shirts in there, you can't, you know, on a hanger, you can't even get any gear in there. It's basically 2 hooks and a small amount for the officers to put personal belongings to. And we don't have enough lockers today to accommodate all the employees that we have. We don't have a locker gear space, gear bag. It's thrown in the back room, which was the old Sally port. And it's all over because we have shelving for other equipment, from our Axon tasers to our radios to our batteries to our communication devices, our radars, AEDs, evidence cases, photography, and I'm sure the list will go on. So we're spread out in so many different areas. The efficiencies are just not there. And then records, not, you know, being able to interact with the public in a secure environment. And most modern police agencies do have the bulletproof. You're still going to feel welcome. You're still going to have it, you know, anyone that comes and visits will still see enough space to feel welcome, like it's not a little, you know, slotted hole that they have to talk to through. But, and then, you know, as we mentioned, our Sally port, and we do appreciate that the fence was installed so that current situation right now is if an individual gets out of the squad car and takes off on the, with the security of the officer walking next to him, but if they evade the officer in the back, they can't get into the neighborhoods. They got to take a little bit more evasive action to get up over a fence, and hopefully if they're handcuffed behind them, they're not going to be able to do that. However, with the Sally port, the importance, as I mentioned before, is inclement weather or weather like tonight, that parking lot is icy out there. So if we bring a prisoner in and that prisoner trips and falls because we don't even, because they stepped out of the car and the officer didn't grab them in time, they go down, they're handcuffed and back, they're gonna hit their head or do something else. We're gonna look at some major costs, fighting, you know, liability or risk assessment claim, you know, with a prisoner. So these are needed items. These are not really things that we shouldn't have. This is what modern technology is, modern police stations. For a small police agency of 10 officers, yeah, this building could potentially continue to work, but we're not at 10 officers anymore. We just can't do that. But with other limitations, obviously, without the Sally port. So,
Thanks, Chief. Looking at some of the renderings, so as we were, you know, ultimately you probably noticed this is pretty much going to be an entire gut to do the proper renovation. There's not a lot of salvageability. And while we were looking at that level of a renovation, it came to our attention that there's likely some other things we could do to improve some energy efficiencies. So one of the things that we looked at was replacing all the windows. You know, they're 25, 30 years old, and that would be a pretty low cost improvement to do that. Well, the other thing we looked at is putting a new shingle roof on this. This roof, I believe, is pushing 15 years old already, Chief? Yeah. So it's nearing the end of its life. So if we're going to put a new roof on, then we would change all the gutters and fascia, change the image. All that white kind of trim work gets changed to a more, you know, earth tone, brownish color that looks a little more in keeping with what a modern facility would look like. And then the entryway, it really is a pretty subdued entrance right now. A couple of things that are problematic with that large concrete, whatever you want to call it, weed gather, weed retention space. So we would fix that, make something a little more appropriate, and then bring in some earth tones, maybe some wood, simulated wood, kind of like the library has some organic feel to it with a new entryway that actually pops up, gives you the ability to add a little volume to that entryway, and really make it, you know, feel like it is, you know, the front entrance to the building. And then while we're at it, we'll just improve some of the signage, lighting, and so on and so forth for the facility. So that's the exterior rendering. this thing moving?
I think the end of your
That's
presentation.
it? Okay. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. So there is cost estimates that are in your packet. The first page is the summary page with 6 pages of additional backup that show all the minutia of how we arrived at the number. And as I mentioned before, because of the need to do a full renovation, as well as to deal with some of the mechanical issues that have been inherent with the project with the building for a long time, fire alarms that are out of service, all the life safety things that just don't work anymore, needing to upgrade those. I mentioned adding the cost of a new roof, which is an appropriate thing to do. The job, when you add on some contingencies, which is appropriate at this stage since we're only in concept design of almost $400,000. We have some escalation that we need to still plan on in the market, and we're hopeful that 4% would do the trick on that. And then other costs, as noted below, brings you to about $5,400,000 when you add the soft costs. One of the things to note on the reimbursable side of the ledger and the soft costs is an FF&E, or fixtures, furniture, and equipment. That is budgeted in the detail about $75,000. We're cautious that might do the trick, but there's still probably some more information we need to glean to make sure that's an appropriate number. These compact shelving, for instance, is a very expensive ticket, so if there's any way we can maybe reuse some of the stuff that currently resides in Public Works, that might be a way to save some money there. But we need to look at that a little further as we move forward. And then you see at the very bottom, these are all potential adds, no cost reductions, because we got rid of those because they really weren't appropriate. And one of the things was a potential monument sign, lit monument sign up at the flagpoles, to really call attention to this being a public safety building. Additionally, some additional insulation on the exterior envelope, since this was built in 92? Yeah, sorry. This probably lacks some of the insulation value, so for about a $50,000 bump, you can increase the R value of the exterior envelope, which might be a reasonable thing to at least entertain. And then the parking lot, we didn't include that in the cost to do this because I think there may be a way to maybe offset that with some general maintenance O&M costs that may be in a different budget. And then finally, an upgrade to the lobby to use a terrazzo tile, which is it's a much better product, lasts a lot longer, has a little nicer look to it. The base is a porcelain tile in the lobby now. But that may be some things to the village board can entertain as potential adds. Some of these can be bid as alternates too, and we can entertain picking those up once bids are in and go from there. So happy to entertain any questions you may have.
This first one, the number that we're looking at there is about $98,000 higher than what's in our packet. And I'm trying to go through line item for line item. There's some deviations a little bit on some of the numbers. I suspect this is an updated spreadsheet, and our packet is already updated.
No, the packet is the newer one. I apologize. The one on the screen is dated 12/9. The one in your packet is dated 12/18. So I apologize. We must have sent over to Tracy a little bit of an older budget. So our apologies.
The one in your packet is correct, the 12/18.
Okay, good. We just shaved $98,000. Thank you. Okay. Comments from the board. Questions for Brian? Either on budget or on layout and use, or I know Matt. We certainly appreciate your feedback. So having lived through a renovation too, or a new building built out.
Yeah, I guess I can go. Does this include, I'm looking through it now, does this include any of the security features, key card access, cameras, any of that is included in this, or is that going to be a separate?
We have budgeted for security allowance at this point, yes.
And then I worked tirelessly and very hard to get this fencing put up. was not cheap. Are you saving this fencing?
Yes, correct.
So the fencing's not going to be torn down and thrown away?
No, there's only a potential small little section of it where the picnic area or outdoor eating is kind of now in the asphalt park. Maybe we relocate that and move the fence around it.
Excellent, okay, that's important to me as well. Chief, have you thought about what's going to happen during this renovation? We have temporary housing for you guys, have you
How many rooms
decided?
can you fit your house?
You're more than welcome. More than welcome.
Yeah, so,
I serve donuts at 8 a.m.,
so that is one of the considerations that we've been talking about, as a group. We're going to have to relocate from here. It will be more cost prohibitive to keep us present in this building. It'll drive that cost up a lot more. You have to do it in phases. So we're going to have to look for alternative spaces at the 160 building for a few. We'll look at, other empty commercial buildings or trailers that will have to temporarily be relocated to. But there's no other way to do it without us vacating this building and getting all the pieces of equipment out.
Right, makes sense.
And it also slows the time frame down if you were in here and you were working around staff.
It would add at least 6 months to the completion date.
Between the lobby and the, I guess it's desks for the patrol officers, where you have 199 square feet. Would you put windows in that wall just to promote natural light throughout the building? And so, whether it's obscured glass or clear glass, so people could see into the lobby who's there, activity that's going on in the floor.
If you can go to the floor plan, whoever's controlling that. So yeah, I believe that's definitely a potential to
Yeah. So,
do some windows there, where the seating is between the.
Yeah.
Report.
Is there plans for like, all the Valix sun tunnels or anything like that? It just looks like a lawn building. I don't know how many windows are being proposed. Bring in some additional natural light, or is there enough windows to accommodate?
We'll add windows where appropriate, for instance. I know there are some lacking windows on the east side that we definitely could bring some new windows in on that side. There are obviously some skylights here, right? So those,
You're good.
we would retain those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Those are obsolete nowadays or not, so.
They don't leak.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out and picture where I'm guessing right here where this doorway is where the circulation corridor will be.
Yeah. For the
So
most
these are
part.
really gonna fall into the locker room.
Yeah, we gotta look at, see where they fall and whether or not they make any sense. I mean, the lockers won't go all the way up to the ceiling, so.
But you're gonna have walls that go, no?
We will. I don't know
Yeah.
where these fall in the scheme of things, but
Yeah.
if they're retainable, maybe we'll retain them.
The toilet area over by the chief and deputy chief, that seems like that doesn't provide much privacy. I don't know if that's a location that's set in stone, but that might need to be moved.
I think by code, you have to have those things near lactation rooms. I think that's probably in a lot of later buildings today. We ran into it in our recent renovation we did as well, so that could be why there needs to be something close by there.
Yeah. Look in the janitor closet, just to get
Oh,
some
so
privacy.
flipping those around.
Well, to have people just walking right outside the chief's office. Deputy chief's office. Yeah, I mean,
It's true.
I think you're not the first one who's asked that. I think Jennifer also questioned that. So it's not set in stone.
Yeah.
We'll be able to review. But all of them have somewhat plumbing right immediate nearby, so reshuffling the deck a little bit's really not much of a cost impact at all.
And then for the clerk, and then the storage, the high density storage units, is that too much separation, or do you have different clerks work in the high density storage units, or are they not used by the clerks at all?
Those are going to be long-term storage of our records, police records. So they'll just have to walk over to that space to get to it. It won't be something that they'll use on a daily basis.
Okay.
So that, you'll see there's other opportunities for them to store closer
Oh,
to the
okay.
station.
Yeah, I didn't see it with it there to the right of the clerk.
We have to maintain fingerprint cards till, all right, I think till age 70 or so many years past the person's death. So, and other documents under the Illinois Records Retention Act, they have to be maintained. And we're trying to digitize a lot of it, but some of it still has to be maintained in the original format.
Chief, you mentioned early on in your presentation that the current situation we have right now is preventing the village from gaining necessary accreditation of the police department. What in particular are we deficiting that this addresses?
One, we're going to be moving our arsenal outside the secure area. So that's definitely no-no. And I have Officer Hanold here with me that also does on-site accreditations. I also am the chairperson for the Illinois Chiefs of Police for accreditation. So we will fail some of those standards if we want to move forward.
Yeah.
And there's some other ones too. There's deficiencies within the building, and recommendations would be made by the team that would come out. But some of them are pretty severe. That's why we're hoping to move forward with a renovation and expansion. And it's not just because of accreditation. It's also about proper police operations. It's also about safety for the officers.
Were we able to get feedback from the sergeants or patrol? Did the officers weigh in on the design and concept?
So the command staff, they had a few moments reviewing it. They gave a couple thoughts, and the subject, Kurzawa did too. And these are all conceptual plans, and I know we'll get into, later on, we'll get into a little bit more detail. And I think that's where they're, looking at that, if it moves forward, that's where I think they're gonna have better eyes on it. Also the patrol officers' labor, they also got a view of this concept plan. This was not the only concept plan that was presented. We're presenting you the one that we think works best. The ones were better plans, but this is better flow, better for operations, better for liability and mitigating the risks. And we're working within a constrained building, so we're not starting from fresh. And I'm impressed where we got to with this design. We didn't see it with our other architects, and we're seeing it today.
So the detail, like those lockoffs that you showed me in Yorkville, right? That's the detail that's not in here. We know that it's in your number though, Brian. Those are planned items.
Yeah, not at this stage in the design. Those are anticipated and they're in the budget, but not on the drawing yet.
Okay. Go ahead, James.
What is the expected construction time?
So this is likely about a 10 to 12 month renovation period. I would say, just to be safe, anticipate 12 month turnover from start to finish.
Okay.
Assuming we have full access to the building. Obviously, that's the numbers are all based on having complete access to the full building.
So the current police department would be out of here for that period of time?
Yes.
Okay. So if they were somewhere else, we would need to calculate the cost of having them stay in another office or something, so that's.
I think the biggest thing is they're used to living in a shoebox.
Yes.
So moving them over to some of the offices, I'll vacate an office to accommodate chief, and we have a break room in the existing building that will get turned over as offices. If we even still have to get rid of the conference room on some level and use Scott's office at times for private meetings, we can do that to be able to create space within the existing. So we certainly can make it work, but whatever works best for them. And there's a full kitchen over there, so you can have access to that.
Quick question, do you know what the slope of the new entryway that you have?
The roof slope,
The roof slope for the new entryway? Okay.
I don't.
Okay, architect concerned with the low slope
Right.
and maintenance issues and drainage issues and,
We would use the appropriate roofing material for that low slope if it's less than shingle appropriate.
okay.
Could be metal, frankly.
I was gonna ask that, because I know we talked about a roof before, and Chief said don't use the metal because they're antennas, but I was gonna ask, can you put it just there on the?
Yeah, we could put it in the vestibule. I'm thinking probably standing seam metal roof for that
Standing
small
seam
section.
on that. The caution I have, I know the library looks fabulous, that huge entry. They have bird issues, so keep that in mind. They've gone through a lot of problems trying to clean up the birds nesting all the way
Sure.
in there all the time, so.
Understood. We don't anticipate exposed structural beams in this design that the library has, which gives them
a little
Brings a
extra,
little
but,
bit,
you know, I know sometimes dogs will, you know,
Yeah.
nest anywhere. But I know it was an issue for the library, you walk in and then you get pelted with bird poop
Not a good,
sometimes.
not a good welcome.
Yeah, so whenever I see that, it looks great, but make sure we
Sure.
have that functionality there, or plan to make sure that we make it not friendly to birds.
Okay, so go ahead.
Chief, what happens when you're not in the building, we don't have any of this, what happens when you arrest someone? Do you take them straight to the county?
No, we'll make arrangements with another local municipality to allow us to process and book. Majority of the prisoners that we're getting are cited and released, but we still have to process them. Those that are going to be turned over for felonies will obviously have to transfer them to county. But we need to maintain the mug shots and fingerprinting when we turn them over to the county. Sometimes we never get that material back, so
Okay.
so it's important for us.
And you'd have to do that in another department?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Who's closest?
Aurora,
Aurora, Montgomery?
Right, Aurora, Montgomery, North Aurora, and depending on when Elburn gets built out, we'll see what it happens too. So, but they're probably not going to be built by the time, hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll have an opportunity to build here.
So last we spoke, I just want to kind of take us back to the history of how this project kind of started and where it started. So it did start with Sally Port, and we saw an early presentation of that Sally Port, and then it was brought back, and we asked Chief to live in this building. Basically, admin and finance moved out, live in this building, figure out if something works, doesn't work. The budget has slowly increased. The original version of Sally Port, only Sally Port, didn't address any of the functionality of this building whatsoever for the police department or the liability and safety concerns that you need to function as a police department. So with that being said, the budget has been slowly creeping up. This is a $5.4 million ask, and that does not include some of the other improvements that while you're doing it, especially improve the exterior envelope, while it is $50,000, while you have your walls opened up and you're in a complete, it's the time to say that let's add $50,000. So
I agree, that is absolutely, I'm 100% on that.
the lobby terrazzo tile, while it is lovely, and I did have an opportunity to see it at the new building in Kendall County, for the size space, we talked about it yesterday. I talked about it with Brian for the size space. I went on a tour yesterday. It should be known to Yorkville, so we got to see the Yorkville Police Department as well as the new Kendall County building. And it was really to see some of the things that were in here as asked and want to know what that looks like. Really, what it comes down to is for $18,000 for the floor. It's probably not worth the spend. It is beautiful, but trying to work with Brian to get the same effect and aesthetic with a porcelain tile floor. Likely for the amount of space that is, we're going to cover it with a rug, so that kind of thing. So I don't know how you all feel. I certainly have pictures I can pass my phone so that you can see it. But it was beautiful. But I don't know that one was worth the spend, and that was my feedback to them when we were on the tour. So
I I will say terrazzo, I know it's pretty, but it is considered a extremely durable flooring. Like you'll see it in areas of high traffic,
Your
in
past
colleges and
stuff.
stuff like that, because it's extremely durable. Now, I don't know if it's worth, you know, like I said, the $18,000, but I understand the ask for it.
Well, and that was the conversation. How long is the floor gonna last? The floor will outlast the building. I think
Yeah.
that's really what they,
Yeah, terrazzo's something that's gonna last a very long time.
and then the milling and resurfacing of the parking lot. I kind of look at that and then defer to Brad and our road program. Is there a way, and maybe it's a math question too. It certainly should be, the whole project should be done at the same time, and it should be a cost that we take care of, but is it something that we can potentially incorporate into a road program? Okay.
Aren't they doing Yo Lane in the next couple of years? Isn't Yo Lane scheduled for, I
Next year.
mean, if they're gonna be there here, that's kind of hopeful.
It needs one of just repairs.
This one?
But all sidewalks, out exterior sidewalks here are included, and your
The
preliminary
immediately
numbers.
adjacent sidewalks will be reworked, redone.
Yeah.
Green of ADA compliance, I'm assuming since you're basically gutting the entire interior, we're gonna be ADA compliant.
100% correct.
Okay, that was one of my issues before, because that's a liability if we are not.
When you guys reviewed everything from 2006, what was the cost of a new building in 2006? Did it say anywhere?
It was in the like 30 million, wasn't it? Okay, well, it'd be like 30 million today.
And we got 20 more years out of this.
20
20 million then, we got 20 more years, almost 20 more years out of this building to update it, to bring it up to snuff, is gonna be $5 million.
5.4.
$5.4 million.
50.
Well, but that building was also, I think, 25,000 square feet.
It was huge.
Yeah, they have
So if we're-
gun range, the fire range, and then
Much
administrative
bigger.
offices.
So we've got a cost per square foot of about $500. If this were to be a new, if we were to just tear this down and rebuild it, what would be the square footage price on it?
We're working on a new one right now downstate in East St. Louis. Budgeting for a police agency like, it's a little bit bigger, you know, probably 20% bigger. We're pushing about 635 a foot, or pushing 700.
But that's new ground up,
New
it's not a
ground up.
demo.
Ground up.
So you have demo costs here if you were to do that.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy what has happened with the escalation on buildings and police facilities because of their specialty needs that they have with security and other systems are on the higher end of the spectrum.
I think it's important to keep in mind too that, you know, the board has approved some dry storage racks and things like that over previous years that then get integrated back into this building, right? So they're elsewhere, and they're their things that they have spread out come back into this building for efficiency, which is crucial.
Matt left his remarks in my board report on the financing, so if you want to take a look at that real quick.
If basically we can't afford the 5.4 without any bonds. And if we have to move into another budget, we can. We are fully funded within our vehicle replacement. So it's almost like borrowing from vehicle replacement and then paying that back is how we, but I don't even think it was a significant amount that we were borrowing. I think right now we're at 4,500,000, and then borrowing and paying that back. And that's why we've been, any surplus or any opportunity, we've been stashing it away for capital expense like this. So what I'm looking for the board's consensus on is just to have Porter and Clark move forward with numbers and design plans and bring it back to the board. So Scott, I don't know if you want to.
Under general business, we'd ask to have a letter, engagement letter approved at the next meeting. And then that I would also, alongside that, we would have a budget to work from. After the engagement letter is signed, they would start the design. Once the design is complete, then they would put the bids out on the street. The design would take roughly 3 months. Right?
Yeah, 3 or 4 months, yeah.
3 or 4 months, get that out on the street, get the bids back. Then that takes some time as well. And then with the construction season with schools, I probably anticipate, maybe like an August start time?
I would say potentially into September.
Yep.
Yeah.
At start time on the project at that time, we'd bring the bids back. If there were optionals that the village board wanted included, such as the parking lot, tile, the wrap, or anything else that you may want included, we could bring that back for approval at that time. We'd have firmer numbers then, of course, when the bids came back, and then we could also talk contingency again at that point to give us some authority on smaller things that can happen during construction, and then of course a threshold at which point, larger things would come back to the board, of course. We'll discuss all of that at that time, but that's the general working timeline as of today to move forward.
Yeah, I have no issue on mine. 2 more questions for mine real quick. You had made a comment earlier, I think it was a little flippant, but I caught it. You said, oh, it should get you about 10 more years. We should get more than that out of this for $5.5 million, I just think.
I really meant the growth on staffing, right? I think that was the projection, maybe she can speak to that.
Okay. So as far as what we anticipate as far as police staff growth.
Correct, yeah, so we utilize our space needs study that Williams helped put together based on those numbers and potential growth of the village, where we would be. So, majority of our daytime staff is not as big in the building. Obviously, our officers are on the street, so still enough space to work within here. And then we still own, additional, space that we could rework if need be. We have a couple other, like you said, some areas that we to create a new detective workspace, or one of the storage spaces has to be relocated to somewhere else.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the digital forensics could become an office when you shrink the forensics really to a box if you do that. And the duty bags, you could add another stack on top of them to increase the number of duty bags you need. So I apologize, it wasn't intended to be flippant on the actual.
Said 10 years.
That was the growth projections for staff.
So if we growth similar to 2004 to 2024, I would anticipate us getting 20 years out of this remodel. If it's more of what happened to some of our neighbors at a different time, if we're growing very, very fast, then that changes it. But I don't think it wouldn't be because we can certainly have some growth. We've got room to add more duty bags and some additional lockers as well, space. So if we do hire some additional officers, we've encountered that, or we've accounted for that. We could add a 3rd layer of duty bags, I think, in the way we have it stacked in here. So we're not designed, it's not designed that we're maxed out today. We can have some growth, but if it's a considerable growth in population and need for manpower, that's what would cause it, not the age of the building itself.
Is there any anticipation of plans to stub out for future use with electrical vehicles? I mean, if you're tearing everything down, I don't know if there's going to be a use, or at least for officers for their cars they drive in here to charge. If you're doing all this construction, is this the time to look at that potential?
We can look at it. I mean, it's going to be we'll have to look at the electrical service and see how capability is there. And now we haven't gotten to that level of detail yet. And again, we often have bid that as an alternate to allow you some flexibility whether or not you want to pay for it. The charging stations, I mean, they run $25,000, $30,000.
Yeah, I didn't know if we wanted to stub out.
Stub is far easier.
Yeah, to stub out for any potential in the future.
Yep.
So.
I think we'll make a note of that and look at potentially adding at least one station, which would be 2 vehicles.
Is there the potential for when we have all these walls open, you might make a good point about putting that much money into it, for how much time. If we do have some rapid growth, can we plan for a second story? I mean, we talked about doing second floor, you know, just from a structural standpoint, of bracing it or something.
It really is a challenge from a cost standpoint because the foundation systems are not designed to take the additional load. Without significant upgrades to the foundation system, which then at that point starts to be cost prohibitive. You still have some room to grow to the west a little bit on this site if there was a need for a few additional expansion. Or you even, grow to the north and move parking further north. There's probably better ways to accommodate versus trying to accommodate vertical expansion for this.
I think pros and cons to that as well, though. What I learned yesterday even from the chief in Northwell is, and you talked about it too, Brian, is a single-story police department and its functionality versus the disconnection. And that was one of his complaints, is that he's on the second story and a lot of the patrol, and they don't have that interaction on a regular basis. That the single-story police department for functionality purposes was preferred if you could do it.
I see it pretty separated here, being at the other end of the building. But I understand what you mean about the foundation.
Right.
Being able to handle it. I was thinking more that, we're talking more about daytime staff is what's going to expand the most, right? And just like the area on the right side of the screen that's current, it's former administration of finance. But if it's not really cost effective, then I don't want to see it. But at the same time, if we have an opportunity to expand it at a reduced amount in the future.
We could expand to the east too. We'd actually had a concept that showed expansion to the east. So you have some flexibility from a future expansion, push comes to shove.
You can go to the east, but so if you needed to. But one of the things and the reason why we did show it in a concept is for additional explanation as to why the Sally Port, in addition, is on this side of the building. Brad and Brian, you can probably both chime in as to why it then moved back over here. I know it was definitely Brad's suggestion based on utilities in the ground.
Yeah, it was future stuff out already for the Sally Port expansion on the west side.
On that side.
Sewer
So you would have to bring the sewer all the way over.
If we wanted to go over there with sewer, yeah. Because the sewer goes out the back.
So it did save money by putting the Sally Port over here initially.
Well, I'm good with that. It's just,
If you had to expand east, you would obviously not do Sally Port there. You would just go office or some kind of admin.
so it's just like an office space, yeah.
And that would create any additional site utility issues.
We'd almost redo the Sally Port in the future, change Sally Port as was done here into office space, and then put on an addition for Sally Port and evidence garage to the west.
That is definitely, you could divide the Sally Port in half, right? So the left half is now functional space. Chief hates to hear that, but
Right.
there's ways to do that. So
Yeah.
if you really were in a bind and you needed to pick up some space, like you said, you could do that. There's some flexibility.
Just consider where you think your expansion in 10 years, where's your expansion needed? Is it needed in office space? Is it going to be needed in Sally Port and evidence? Because what I don't want to see happen is while we're talking about that now, we talk about Sally Port over there, when your evidence collection and storage is over here, that was part of this design and layout, that was a crucial part of the layout, and now you're disjointed again.
I think it's crucial that we've got the design where we've got the bookings separated and the Sally Port and all of that, so it is a safe design. And I think that flows well.
And there's details to work out. I know I've talked to Chief about, well, can we do this, we do this. He goes, it's a concept plan, right? So there's the details that have to be worked out, that they'll still work through. But really, is the board comfortable saying, yes, let's move forward? I know the project is expensive, it's gone up, but with the fact that we can afford it without bonding, for other municipalities that are in the same situation we're in, and they do need to bond it, it will cost them significantly more, just because they have to. This building, obviously, the conversation predates me and how long the police department has been waiting, and I'm glad that you lived in it for 2 years to figure out thank you all for figuring out the ebbs and flows of this building, but I think the board has shown, and I'd like to think that you still support this plan, that the commitment to making the investment within the police department. And I know I had a conversation with, maybe you don't want me to share it, I had a conversation with Matt earlier today, and where you already have concerns and struggles recruiting police department, police officers, we certainly aren't showing ourselves in the best light by what we have to offer today. I know your offices are your vehicles, but also the building in which you work is important as well. It's been a long time coming. I'm happy that we're in the place we're in today as a village and a municipality, so I just want to hope that the board is supportive of moving this project forward with Cordy and Clark and bringing it back to the next board meeting under general business.
I think one thing is that it's not gonna get cheaper.
No.
And so, and if it'll hold us over for the time that we need and get the ability to pay for it, I think that's a really key factor for me. Because it's only gonna get more expensive.
Yeah, I'm concerned that some of these costs are low right now. Basic concrete, HVAC going up significantly, so I'm concerned about our budget here.
But he's pulling them from actual jobs that they've done recently, I believe is what you did with that.
Yeah, we just opened bids just before the holidays for the major renovation at Kendall County's office building that's right on Fox and Main Street.
Yep.
And that was basically a total gut and reno, much like this. So those are, adapted unit costs based on, 3 weeks ago. So we're comfortable that we're capturing the appropriate market conditions today, and unless something happens with the economy or tariffs turn into something crazy that's going to, make the construction world go, we don't believe that's the case.
Yeah.
And our anticipation is to get this out to bid late part summer. Right? So it's only 6 months from now.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully the world doesn't change in 6 months.
I think it's very important that we move sooner rather than later on this, because the construction costs are just gonna go up, and this is a need that we have. We have to do this for liability reasons, we have to do this for safety reasons. So if we keep on waiting and kicking down the road, it's just gonna get more and more expensive.
I agree. Any other, I'm seeing head shake. Everybody's good, thumbs up. Good. Good. Ready, Jeff? Looks like you have consensus in the
All right.
board to move it forward.
Look forward to seeing you guys in a few weeks.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time. Okay. Up next, airport report.
Good evening. I was informed today by the secretary to the Airport Commission that the city of Aurora is going to move forward with a new digital roadside sign, and it'll have display advertisements along with messages from the city. The city council approved a 20-year agreement with the company at that meeting. And I do have a rendering. There was an article in the Beacon News, I believe, about this. So I did forward email and the article to the village president, which I believe she's going to share with the rest of the board for feedback and to see if there's any further discussion on this. So it is unincorporated property. And I don't know if anything in our agreement has anything to do with the sign or not. Obviously, that would be up to the board and the attorney. So I just want to make everybody aware of it. I do have this if anybody just wants to.
If you can pass it to me, that'd be
Take
great.
it.
Thank you for bringing up hard
So,
copy
it does say 30 feet tall on there. So,
with advertising.
yes. So,
We'll look into our agreement.
okay. I just wanted to pass that along. I just found out about it today. So, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions? I'm sorry, does anybody have any questions for him? No? All right, thanks, Tony. Okay, up next, we have public comment on scheduled action items. This evening, under consent agenda, we have A, approval of the December 17th, 2024 village board meeting minutes. B, approval of the vouchers from January 7th, or from the vouchers on January 7th, 2024. C, approval of the 2024 police pension municipal compliance report. Under item 9, general business, we have A, a resolution approving an IGA with TIF number 2 with the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District capital cost ambulance. Item B, a resolution approving an agreement with Tri-Merit and Sickage LLC for tax accounting services. Item C, a resolution approving an agreement with Flock Safety for 4 additional license plate recognition reader cameras. Item D, approval of on-premises liquor license for Maris Primos Restaurant Incorporated located at 495 North Sugar Grove Parkway, Sugar Grove. So that's everything that we have this evening under scheduled for action. So do I have any public comment at this time for any action items? Sir.
Lou Lenny, standard disclaimer.
Hold on 1 second. Tracy, I just want you to reply. It's okay. Sorry.
Standard disclaimer, my opinions are mine, not necessarily trustee Lundy's, although I think we're pretty aligned on this one. My concern is about the license plate readers and the potential for government abuse. And the reason I'm concerned about it is because I've seen it. I used to work for a marketing company that developed technology that would allow marketers to track people across moves and name changes, even if they didn't file a national change of address. This technology was good. It was very, very good. It was so good that in some parts of the country, people were protesting it. The idea of having a number assigned to every person and being able to track them across names was not something that people liked. But the company assured the public that this was all just to help marketers target their mailings better. And then 9/11 happened. And suddenly the federal government was mining our databases trying to track the movements of the terrorists. Now that made sense as a reaction. But a year and a half later, 2 years later, retired General Wesley Clark joined our board of directors, and we started selling the technology to the government. I left that company. Now, I don't want to insult anybody here, but when I look at all of you, I think you're all old enough to have read 1984. And not only read 1984, but read it at a time when the ubiquitous surveillance described in that book was far-fetched and dystopian. So that we are so willing to allow the erosion of our privacy, that should send shudders up of all of your spines. So before you vote to double the amount of passive surveillance we do on our residents, I would just ask you to think back to how you felt when you read 1984 and ask yourself, do I really want Big Brother to love me? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Jaden.
Good evening, everyone. Before I started, I want to say I actually agree with Lou Lindy on that last point you made. My main comment tonight is regarding the contract with the fire department, or the fire protection district. I'm not surprised that the village is scheming to take away the rights from the fire department, but whoever it was from the village that proposed the term about TIF 3, whether that be President Conan, Scott, or the village attorney, should be ashamed of themselves. How morally corrupt do you have to be to dangle a carrot in front of the fire protection district so that they give up their rights? You're weaponizing taxpayers' dollars as a coercion tactic against those who are sworn to protect our community. The term brought forward by the village is essentially admitting that TIF 3 would be thrown out if challenged. Or why else would you care about adding that term to the contract? I hope the school district sees this and takes it as a sign and does indeed challenge the TIF. Like I said before, whether it was Jen, Scott, or the attorney that has done all this negotiating, this is unfortunately what the trustees have to vote on. They are faced with the moral dilemma of taking away a taxing district's rights, and if they're against doing that, they would have to face not giving them the funding that they absolutely need and deserve. I encourage you as trustees to do what you should have been doing in the first place, or maybe you weren't given the opportunity to, and suggest a new contract be made that gives the fire department the funding that they deserve without taking the rights away. Leave it to the Village of Sugar Grove to take the rights away from a taxing body. If there is absolutely zero question in your mind that the Crown property is eligible for a TIF, you would have no problem whatsoever with doing that, with giving the fire district the funds for their ambulances without including the no challenging TIF 3 in the contract. You may not realize it, but you just admitted that the Crown property is not eligible for a TIF. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
My name is Dale Essling. Jaden, I love you, man, but you're young and naive talking morals to this board. It's really a waste of time. There's only 2 people on this board that have any morals or ethics. Sean and Heidi, thank you. I emailed a court case, an appellate court case, to this board, along with members of other taxing district boards and several other people who I chose not to include on the original list, but who seemed quite interested in the goings on of this board. I don't have time to read this entire court case. I'll just cover some of the pertinent parts now, just in case any of you chose to ignore the email. This was an appellate court case, Henry County versus the Village of Orion in Illinois. The testimony established that the Village of Orion passed and approved an ordinance allowing Orion, the village, to enter into an intergovernmental agreement to provide assistance to the school district because it was concerned that a school district may suffer from the real property tax revenues lost during the lifetime of the TIF district. You could rewrite that sentence to read, Sugar Grove was concerned as fire protection district may suffer from the real property tax revenues lost during the lifetime of the TIF district. The Village of Orion thought that their intergovernmental agreement was valid because their attorney said that the law, or the act, allows a municipality to make payments to individual tax districts without providing pro rata payments to all other taxing districts. Just as Sugar Grove thinks that they can make payment to a single taxing district. The appellate court goes on to say, quote, we are unpersuaded that the Act's municipal mandate to provide payments in lieu of taxes to all affected taxing districts is circumvented by the legislature's grammar in a separate statutory section. First, the legislature ensured that the municipality's payments in lieu of taxes should be made to all affected taxing bodies when it used the following definition. Payment in lieu of taxes means those estimated tax revenues from real property in a redevelopment project area acquired by the municipality, which, according to the redevelopment project plan, is to be used for private use in which those taxing districts would have received that tax money had the municipality not adopted tax increment financing. The language expressly recognizes that all taxing districts located within this proposed TIF district lose real property tax revenues under the tax increment financing plan. The court goes on to say, at the end, because I'm running out of time here, quote, we therefore find no basis in the act or in the arguments presented to hold that a municipality may make payments to a single taxing district in lieu of taxes cloaked as an intergovernmental agreement. Those words are not mine, but the words of the Appellate Court of Illinois, 3rd District. If this board chooses to vote yes on a questionable contract such as this appellate court case will most certainly be another proverbial nail in your coffins.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this time? Going once? Going twice? 3 times, we'll close that section. Up next, consent agenda. Any requests to remove an item? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as previously stated?
As stated.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a first on trustee Bonnie and a second on trustee Karen. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Garrett?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Shamus?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries 6-0. Up next, under general business, item A, the resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement in TIF 2 with the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District for capital cost of the ambulance stop.
Thank you. This was brought forward to the village board previously and discussed in September about helping to fund an ambulance for the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District. The consensus was to move forward with this. It took some time to get the IGA drafted, forwarded over to the fire department for their review, and then ultimately to be put in front of the fire department and voted upon, and it was passed unanimously by them. I want to give a little background. This started with some discussions between myself, Chief Moran, and the Mayor and Matt Anastasia about some of the happenings inside of TIF District Number 2 specifically. And what was happening there is that there is a senior living facility. And as you probably know, that there is visits there from ambulances from time to time. And that is indeed in the TIF. The TIF Act specifically allows for it authorizes the use of incremental taxes for eligible redevelopment project costs, including all or a portion of the taxing district's capital costs resulting from redevelopment project necessarily incurred or to be incurred within a taxing district. So the cost is the ambulance calls made to the senior living facility. The capital cost, not the people manning the ambulance, not the other costs, but the capital cost is the purchase and the outfitting of the ambulance. That was established, it was discussed with the fire district. They sent us information about calls that are made in the TIF. They sent us the costs to purchase the ambulance, which they had ordered. Some of the details of that are included in Matt's staff report. So then we went and looked and worked with them and tried to come up with the best, because it can be all or a portion of it. Obviously, this ambulance will serve the entirety of the village of Sugar Grove and will not just be used in the TIF. So we felt that 100% didn't make sense in that instance, but it is something that will be used in the TIF district in number 2. So the thought process was to come up with a number. We tried multiple different ways to come up with a number, and the discussion occurred again with the village board, and we came to the 217 number, so that was a recommendation. Staff continued on with that number and brought that forward as part of this agreement. Staff does feel, and with working with our attorney, that this is a good fit for the TIF Act. The need exists. We've talked and tried to practice what we preach with TIFs. The board has previously rebated funds to all taxing bodies when the payments go back to the county and then are sent back on a basis in that form. But this is a specific part that there is a need that has arisen because of action in the TIF. So that's why there's a discussion with the district and this was brought forward. Staff recommends approval and moving forward with the agreement to get the funds over to the fire department so they can get the new ambulance up and running. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Discussion.
I have a question. So the fire department is in a TIF, correct?
That building, the senior.
That build, well, isn't the fire department itself?
The fire department is as well, yes.
Yes. So all that work they had to do with the concrete work and such, couldn't that be a TIF expense as well, since it's in the TIF?
I know that Chief Moran has brought that up, and that was brought up with our prior administrator. We weren't working with Kathy at the time as those eligible expenses, but the staff at that time evaluated and said whether it was right or wrong, it needed to be the drainage issues on their property. Chief, maybe you can help me what his explanation was. The drainage issues on the fire protection district's property needed to be remedied on another parcel, which I don't know that it made sense. It was the reasoning that was given at the time. I think if we were in a different place with Kathy representing and knowing the TIF Act like she does, they could have been eligible expenses, yes.
So I guess, who added, I guess, I do have the question when I read this. So because they are in a TIF district, the buildings in the TIF district, they're not getting the ambulance as a taxing body. They're getting because they are in a TIF district and the TIF money, no?
No, the location of the fire department has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that the calls for service are occurring in the TIF district to a building, and that the need for the ambulance in part is due to the additional calls in the TIF. The location of the fire department is not, a part of this agreement specifically, it's not part of it.
Okay. They
The
can't
the uses needed because of the added calls that
Oh,
they're
oh, I-
incurring over there. And that's why the capital expense is eligible, because there's an increased call of service into a property within a TIF district. So there is a need for the capital expense, and that's why it qualifies.
Okay, all right, I think it probably would have been better to do the drainage, because that's clear cut, if property in the TIF district is.
But the same thing applies in TIF 3 as an example, when trustee Perrin brought it up. If there is additional residents that would require an additional school bus needed to add a route, pick up students in the TIF district, that school bus would be an eligible expense under the TIF Act. And they're not located in the TIF district, the school district.
Yeah, I absolutely think we need to give this money to, I mean, they need money for the ambulance. I think they needed money for the drainage issue as well, in my opinion. But I'm just curious why the wording, why did TIF 3 have anything to do with this in this agreement?
So the reason for adding that in IGAs related to TIFs, it is commonly added about, that language is added. It is an intergovernmental agreement. There needs to be consideration for both sides, and Laura can talk more about that. But this is something, this type of language is added in IGAs that deal with TIF and TIF funds on occasion. And it was thought that it was in the best interest of the village to not have to get into a legal battle and to get some guarantees that there wouldn't be legal money and things expended. And that this was TIF being used, and that was a consideration and something that was passed by the village board in order to have that continue without legal challenge and great cost, was to ensure that was the reason to add it.
But if they qualify, if our attorneys say they qualify for this ambulance money for the TIF, and they qualify for the money for the TIF, they shouldn't bring up TIF 3 at all. It has nothing to do with it.
So the TIF Act itself requires that if you're doing this capital expenditure, that you do it by some form of an agreement. And just by nature
Right.
of the law, an agreement needs consideration. Does the consideration have to be what's in this agreement? No. But there has to be some stated consideration for you're giving somebody something. And I think as Mr. Keppel stated when talking to your TIF consultant, that's a common thing that's placed in the TIF agreements for the capital
So
expenses.
we have to make sure.
You have to have consideration.
They have to do something for us, for them to give them money that
Correct.
is owed to them via the TIF?
It's not,
essentially?
because it's not owed to them. It's something that the municipality has the option to do, but it's not something they're entitled to. You could never give them any capital expense, and that would be okay. It's not preferable, but there's no obligation that the municipality gives that to them.
Well, when you.
So, but just by nature of the fact that it's an agreement, there needs to be some recited consideration.
We could have put in consideration of $10, like is typically done on a deed. We could have did something like that. I
Yeah.
think this is inappropriate to have section 3 read as it does.
I think it is inappropriate because it's, do I think the fire department that's already, what, in 4 TIF, hasn't having to do with, what, like 4 TIF districts or something to that effect? Yeah, are they going to go sue all of those TIF districts? I doubt it. They have to work, I mean, I don't think that's a consideration that should be put in this intergovernmental agreement. I know they agreed upon it, but that is not something I feel real comfortable being in here.
I actually think that we need to expand it because we're giving them money out of TIF 2. So I actually think they need to change it so that they agree that they're not filing suit under any TIF. Because if they were to take this money and then file something or join in something regarding TIF 2, we've given them the money and then we've lost that TIF. So, I mean, it's not the same as a deed where you say a deed says, I will give you the property if you give me the money. And we just say $10 because we don't want everybody else to know. But this is where we're giving the money this time. And so what's coming back? And that's what they're talking about, the consideration. They're not giving us a deed for it.
The language could be changed at the fire district in consideration to the village for $10. The village.
So they're going to give us $10 and we're going to give them $200.
Well,
I mean,
but if
I don't think-
it's
Well,
money that we say that they,
It's a loser.
if it's money that they need because of the TIF,
I don't disagree with you on that.
then it's money they need because of the TIF, and so they deserve that money, and then.
We're trying to give it to them.
that. Yeah, but in consideration of what? I mean, I would say something minor, like, $10 or whatever, something minor, not saying you're not gonna come and sue us. That just seems, I don't know, that doesn't seem right.
I totally understand what you're saying. I know that, I haven't looked at every IGA that's out there, but I know that the most recent one was an IGA with the school district, the community school district, over the casino project. That IGA states the same thing. The consideration is that you do not sue. That's customary in a TIF. Maybe it's not in every single IGA within a TIF district, but that is customary language. That's coming from, and Scott, I didn't talk to Kathy, so if you can clarify, that's my understanding, but I'm sure Kathy drafted that agreement, it wasn't Laura. She's our TIF attorney, and that was drafted by her.
There's a couple notes to it. I mentioned that it'll save us the legal costs. The other reason to add it, one reason is it costs the fire department nothing to give us that consideration. And also it is commonly used in IGAs around TIFs, that is the consideration that the municipality gets to ensure that the TIF won't be challenged by the body, and then that's part of it. It's just multiple reasons why it's used. It doesn't cost them anything. It gives us reassurance on something that was policy that was passed by the board that it'll continue, and then it saves a legal fight between two taxing bodies, which is, I don't think in anybody's best interest financially, certainly.
And just for the record, Chief Moran has stated that they never said that they were going to sue the Village of Sugar Grove. He made it very clear that they object as a fire protection district. They object to the creation of TIFs. They don't like TIFs. He's stated that at every opportunity he possibly could. He's on the record as saying it multiple times. He's also stated that they have no intention of suing the Village of Sugar Grove. We work very well, I believe, with the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District, as does our police department, work very well with our other local agencies. So we have a good working relationship with the other taxing bodies. They signed this agreement first, it's brought here, but it's our attorney that put that language in there as a protection for the village. That's why it's in there, for no other reason than we are issuing money through an IGA, and that is customary language from an attorney, a TIF attorney. I wasn't privy to the conversation, this is my understanding. Scott, you can elaborate because you worked with Kathy through that IGA, but.
I want the fire department to get their money, and if it's, but maybe it's just because I have a different view of a lot of people of TIFs. I think they're abused and should be used very sparingly. In fact, when we voted on enlarging TIF 2, and the police chief came and spoke and said they did not want that. Yeah, I was the lone no vote, because based off what the fire department had said, and they gave some compelling arguments. I think it feels rather, I do not like it. I do not like the language, and maybe, like I said, it's just because in general I don't like TIFs, because I see them used too bad, too much.
I don't disagree with you. I think that, again, this is a protection for the village, and that is, that's all it is. I mean, they're looking out for the fire protection district. Other boards are looking out for whatever agency they represent. We represent the Village of Sugar Grove. We never want to get into a legal dispute or battle. I believe that this board has been the most responsible with TIF districts of any boards, quite honestly, that I've seen. Just be honest, with terminating one and surplusing dollars on a regular basis when we could. So, and even going forward, whether you like it or not, in TIF 3, there was additional consideration made with that negotiation and that TIF district to keep the standard going of surplusing dollars through the working project. So, and I totally respect your opinion, Heidi, you know that, on that. Again, I go back to, this was drafted by our TIF attorney for protection for the village while still understanding the constraints that the fire protection district has, that the burden of this building, and I know there's a lot of hard feelings about this building, that from their perspective, it was put into this TIF district while it was under consideration, or under construction rather. So with that being said, we want to make them whole. They have a need, and not that we're making them whole, but we want to certainly contribute to the capital expense that they have. And beyond that, it's also really great for the village of Sugar Grove as a whole, for our fire protection district to have another, not an additional ambulance, but also the ability to staff an ambulance. And I saw a fire chief a week or so ago when I was driving down, not Capitol, the other side, oh my gosh, Division. And I was coming from Public Works over here, and there was Big Rock ambulance at the Rush Copley. And I said, you know, I hate to see another ambulance in our community get at mutual aid. And yeah, he's like, well, when we get the new ambulance, we'll staff another ambulance. So it's been super helpful.
I'm not against giving them. In fact, I think we should give them more, you know. Okay, I am all about giving them more because, so that is not my argument. My argument is I do not like that we had to, that it was put in there, the language of, oh, and we're going to take your right away to sue. I don't think they're going to sue. They haven't sued the other multiple TIF districts that they're stuck in, you know, that their district is stuck in, as far as I know. So, but it feels very wrong to have that in there. And I wish there was I would like to have seen another consideration, if it's a requirement to have a consideration, another consideration that doesn't cost them anything either, you know. Hey, you're going to, I don't know, you know, show the Girl Scouts, you know, all the Girl Scouts, you know, a tour your, you know, facility, you know, twice a year or something, you know. Have something that doesn't cost them anything, that's a consideration. I can see that, but this seems like it's taking something away from them that is just rubs me wrong.
I agree with you, Heidi. And I do believe the fire district is entitled to the money, but I will vote no based on the language in section 3. Because I think they signed it under duress, that they felt that they had to sign this agreement in order to get the funds, even with that language in there.
Did they already order the ambulance?
Yes.
Right, so they don't need these funds, they've already ordered the ambulance. So if the fire protection board felt they've already ordered the ambulance, they already have the money for the ambulance. I don't necessarily know that they signed it into rest, they've already purchased it, we're just giving them money back for it. So I don't think that that's really an appropriate use of the term to say it's under duress, because that would be if they did not have money to purchase this. And we told them, well, we'll give you the money to purchase this if you order this. And that didn't happen. They've already purchased it. We're just assisting to reimburse them for a portion of it. That's the way I got it. That's the way I read it. Then my question on I'm assuming, what was that here? So we're concerned, since they've already had the money, Scott, to purchase this ambulance, they've already purchased it. We're concerned that we now give them $217,825, which they don't need for the purchase of the ambulance because it was already purchased. They would then take that money and in turn use that money for legal costs somewhere down the line in the future. In essence, then us paying for their own attorneys. Is that the concern? Because that's kind of how I took it when you guys explained it. So I'm just trying to get clarity.
That is valid. That isn't exactly the way it crossed my mind. And just to be open about it, we worked on the ambulance before TIF 3 was done. We talked about it. We've been working on it for a while with Chief. That we didn't do this as a reason to get them to agree to that. This was more of we want to give them the ambulance. The agreement was made, and then this was a consideration that's commonly used. That is a possibility. They would have extra funds available. Whenever possible, I try to protect the village from litigation. So this was an opportunity to do that at no cost to the fire protection district and no cost to the village. That's one of the reasons it was included.
And the whole board unanimously approved this for the fire protection.
I asked Chief before it started, it was a 4-0 vote. I believe they had one trustee absent. And there was no request made to staff to change anything in the IGA.
Any other comments? Question?
The phrase sticks out like a sore thumb. It does. It, maybe the wording could have been softened up. I don't know if I'll go as far as Trustee Michaels to say not going to vote for it because of it, but in reading it, see why we're getting the comments and the emotions that we have for members of the audience. I would prefer it if it was softened or selected. I think Jamie's selection of words were pretty smart to just say, look, any and all TIF, so that they can't come back and argue even TIF 2, which I think is really the intent of what was there, but that's not what was written. So, yeah, I agree with the comments. They've got an appreciable amount of capital that they've got to burn because of a building that the village, prior to most of our terms, all of our terms maybe, I don't know when that started, when that thing was done and agreed and put on there, and now they got a bunch of ambulance calls. So that's warrantable for the attorneys. That's a reimbursable expense. So I think that's, that's my take.
Valid comment, thank you.
So I just want to comment a little bit about what's on the screen. I mean, what Mr. Essling said is 100% accurate with regard to giving back of tax dollars. We have to do it as a surplus and shared amongst everybody. However, the TIF Act itself, which is what we're referring to, does say that we can help alleviate capital expenses attributable to the TIF. So what I was told was that we had a 5% increase, or no, 5% of all ambulance calls go to the senior apartments. When I look at the fact that, okay, so 5% of the cost of an ambulance, and if I look at that fact that it's been there for 10 years, we're looking at about $24,500 a year. So I quite frankly think that if we're going to look at that as a 10-year reimbursement, we actually need to increase the amount to $240,500. Because I think the fire department deserves it. It is a necessary expense, necessary capital improvement that they've had to incur as a result of that TIF. So that being said, it is, I think, under, I looked at the appellate case that Mr. Essling sent out. There is another statement in that case that he didn't state, which actually says that, yes, we are allowed to do the capital reimbursements, but we're not allowed to do a directed tax rebate, so to speak. And I agree with him on that. So this, I'm actually in favor of looking at this from the standpoint of, we've had that TIF, or at least that building has been in place there for 10 years. I think we should take that 5% of the cost of the ambulance, multiply it by 10, and that's the amount I would suggest we give.
Okay, so just so for board clarification, I ran the cost of the ambulance at $485,979.91, which is in your board packet. 5% of that number, which is their annual calls to that building, 5% of their ambulance calls on an annual basis are attributable to that building. So taking 5% of the cost of that ambulance is $24,298.99 a year. Obviously, multiplied by the 10 that you were saying for the years that it's been in the TIF district is $242,989.95 using the ambulance costs in front of us. So
How much was it?
it was $242,989.95.
Okay. Let's continue with that logic.
Okay.
Because that gets them whole until today.
Yeah.
What about next year, at least for the duration of over many years left in this head?
How many more years are left?
It looks like 1338. It's
I think it
expired.
was created in 2015, right?
Yes, so 38. So.
Should a planned payout annually be according to those numbers?
Well, it seems like though, well, that is one way, and that's the
Right,
hard,
because
that's the hard
if
part of this
that's the
whole
logic that
exercise.
we're using to justify this,
Yeah.
then it's gotta be maintained for the duration.
Well, I think that there was also a point of when it caused and triggered the issue. So it's really, we're splitting hairs because we don't, there's no perfect analysis as to how to help fund the ambulance other than Matt's not here, but how much money's in our TIF district. That's a big part of where the initial discussions were in September.
Well, plus they haven't incurred those costs yet. That's.
Oh, I'm not suggesting we future pay, I'm saying, should there be an annual budgeted line item?
We specifically cannot do this.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's,
All right.
but that would be something for future boards to look at. You know, in 5 years, the fire department comes back and says, hey, you know, we would like to get reimbursed for this again. And I imagine they're gonna come back and they're gonna say, hey, we've got this drainage issue that we had, and we'd like to be reimbursed for that.
So it says for capital towards costs incurred, so it is a.
It's gotta be past tense.
Yeah, past tense, like, absolutely. That's the way the law is worded about capital expenditures.
I just wanted to make sure, if this is the logic that which sounds, I mean, sounds fine from my end, then we need to be prepared that these discussions can and should come up in future years.
Yeah.
And I'm in favor of funding more. I proposed that when we first discussed this a couple of months ago. So there's a need, and that's what the TIF's there for, is to meet that need. But again, I think the agreement should be rewritten to change that consideration, something that's more palatable to the board.
So I heard what Jamie did say regarding the other TIF district and taking out specifically the language tied to TIF 3, but I mean, I know that you don't want any language tied to anything, but I think that the language should be tied. And the reason I say that though is so I know that staff has been working back and forth with the school district, okay? The school district has asked to have an IGA with the Village of Sugar Grove. They don't necessarily need one because the Village of Sugar Grove board has approved funds going out, right? But because the nature of our agreement that we approved as a body can be changed by the board itself with agreement with the developer. You know, the RDA could be changed if as the developer agreed with us. The IGA is beneficial to the school district because it forces our hand to not change. Like, we could amend that down the road and say we can't afford to give out 10% or whatever it may be. The benefit to the school district in that case is to hold us to an IGA so that they at least get what we already promised. That's the benefit. But what will also come forward, I have no doubt, would be the same exact language because that's what I have seen in other IGAs, and that's what our TIF attorney is putting in place to protect the village.
No, I understand that, and I'm not going to stand in the way of the fire department getting money. I like the higher amount. I'd like to see them, if they can, come back about their drainage, you know? But I do know that their fire protection district did vote with that language in there. I would prefer it not to have been there. I think it's bad to have it in there, but they negotiated, that's what's in there. So I'm not going to stop the funds from going if the way it is it has to be in there. But make my opinion known. I don't think it should have been in there. I don't like it. I understand the need, you know, the desire to always try to protect the village, but it just feels wrong.
I don't think anybody likes the language, Heidi. Frankly, no one likes, the idea that we have to use a mechanism like that to move the village forward in general. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to do that. But again, it goes back to, we have this here. We have this tool that we inherited, and what we do with it and how we are responsive with it is extremely important. And I talked to Chief Moran about this. Originally, some of my conversations with him prior to termination of TIF 1 was to cut the building out. It was just completely cut the building out of the TIF district because it was such a sore subject for them. And the problem with doing so is we have an RDA that's out there on Prairie Point property, an active RDA. So we can't cut the building out right now, so what do we do instead? We terminated TIF 1. We said, look at that one. So I think we're being responsible with what we have today, but knowing that TIF 2 specifically, within that TIF district, has very large capital expenditures that we agreed to in an RDA for Prairie Point, and that's what it's going for. It's not private dollars so they can erect they can't go vertical with it. It's the infrastructure needs that the village is deficient in to help create viability on the property that benefits all taxing bodies without using just the sole mechanism of sales tax. Because the sales tax revenue is, everybody loves when the village does that, and they did that for the Jewel property. The village waited for revenue, and we're a small portion of the tax bill, while it came on the tax rolls for everyone else. So the village was on the shortcoming of that, but that's what the village did back then, and I wouldn't disagree with what they did. I think they made the right decision at the time to give the amount of money that they did for Jewel to get a grocer in our community. I would never question what they did or the incentive that they gave. I think now when you talk about development, in order to create more tax base for the other taxing bodies that they're dependent on, you need infrastructure in the ground to help build the vertical development. And that's really what this tool is for. That's why that RDA is in place, and what we earmarked it for within that agreement was the moving of the ramp, the extension of the sanitary sewer, the right-in, right-out access is to make that parcel viable. Today, it's useless. It's somebody asking for a really high property value price on property that it's too high to develop. The cost is too high to develop. So the incentive is really not to offset the cost of the land, which is totally actually an eligible expense. It's for the infrastructure costs that are needed from the municipality that we can't afford to do to make that property more viable for everybody.
Right, and I understand, and we have different opinions on the use of TIFs and how they should be used and such, and I respect that. For this, like I said, I like the higher amount. I prefer not to have that language in there because it just feels wrong, but understanding that our protection district did vote and said that that was okay. I do not want to hold up the funds to the fire department. And also could we change the agreement to increase that amount?
We could. So I want to see what page it's on.
It still has to go back to the.
It has to go back to them for.
It does have to go back to the fire department district. Is that something, time frame? Is that something the fire department is okay with?
I don't know when your next meeting is, but I would assume you can put it back on.
So are you guys going to?
We would approve tonight with a, you can come up, chief, if you want. We would amend it on the floor and approve on the floor with a motion so that it's written up, corrected, and sent back to your body for approval.
Signed by the board.
Signed by the board.
Okay. So, same language on everything, just increasing the dollar amount.
Hopefully section 3 gets modified. That's my preference, but we'll see how staff handles it. But higher dollar.
Can't say no to more money, so add a zero would be great.
Thanks, chief.
We'll have to play
Somewhere.
something across a little bit.
I would suggest that it is off-putting, but I would also suggest that the way the language is in section 3, I'm in agreement with trustee White that it just say existing TIF districts. It doesn't prevent them, not that
Changes the
we're,
language.
yeah, that we're in agreement to, go ahead, are you coming back up?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about, is that language stays the same, increase in dollar amount, right?
That's
So
what I want,
not-
that's what I want to do, but it sounds like we have board members, and so what I'm looking for is consensus. If it's easier for your body, for us to just increase the dollar amount and leave the language the same, then that's what we'll do.
That would be the preference.
Okay,
I can tell you
that's
that
fine.
my board was not happy with the, not that language being in there, but ultimately they did vote 100% to pass it. So we've agreed to the language in there. If you guys want to change the dollar amount, I can take that back to my board very easily, but if it's going to change to say all 5 districts, I don't see that being a good thing.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
take that
Yeah.
as a lessons learned thing.
Under 100%. But I can promise you that if there is an IGA, I'm just, coming from the school board, the language from our TIF attorney is going to put the same language in there.
Then we'll have the discussion again.
Okay. Okay. So right now, this has been approved by their body. So under section, what section is it?
Section 2.
Section 2. Okay. So Jamie, if you want to make a motion, thank you, sir.
I would move to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District with a change to section 2 to increase the amount to $242,989.95, subject to attorney review.
Thank you. I do have a motion on the floor.
I second.
Thank you. First out of trustee White, second out of trustee Karen. Roll call, please.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Aaron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
No.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-1. Okay. Thank you. Up next, we have a resolution approving an agreement with Tri-Merit and Sickage LLC for tax accounting services. Scott, I assume you're taking this.
Yes, thank you. So Matt worked with the existing relationships that we have with Loudon and also Sickage on potentially representing the village. We need to, basically, it's something we haven't done before. It's unique to do with the incentives we receive for the solar field. We need to file a tax return, which we haven't done before. We will not be paying any taxes, but the federal government will kindly hopefully write us a check for $417,338. But because this is new legislation and new territory in the village, Matt and I are recommending that we engage with both Sickage, and then they have a sub-consultant, Tri-Merit, who is an expert in this field, to both help us file those taxes, and then also, if challenged or audited, protect those funds that we got. Matt and I are extremely confident in the 30% that we originally thought we were going to get in the $313,000. We believe we're also eligible for the $104,000 additional, but that's the one where we feel we may need some of their expertise to help defend it. So staff is recommending moving forward with them so that we can properly file this, get the money back as soon as possible. We also want to avoid any federal political winds that may change on solar incentives and get this wrapped up as soon as possible.
Make a motion to approve Tri-Merit and Sickage Garden for tax services.
Second.
I have a first out of trustee Michaels, a second out of trustee White. I just want to verify any discussion. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Aaron?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries 6-0. Up next, a resolution approving an agreement with Flock Safety for 4 additional license plate recognition. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Just a brief reminder at the December 6-month budget review process, Trustee White brought up the concept about retaining 4 of our temporary flock cameras and utilizing surplus funds to help cover those costs. So we went back to Flock and got an estimate what it would be to cover it. It's in our board report, but it's just a little bit of information. And I appreciate the comments that were brought forward here, because I think it's very important for everyone to hear it and to have a sounding resolution of how the technology works. And I have Sergeant Kurzala with me as well, that we're going to talk a little bit about some of the success stories that we've had. So, so the comments that are very appreciated, because I too, back in 1970, something, read that book. So I also appreciate, that the way that, the concerns that are out there, I want to hopefully put some concepts together to let you hopefully be a little bit more at ease. The technology we currently have from Flock, which we made an agreement with in March of 2023, took us over a year to get them to install 4 temporary cameras in town. And the reason they had to do that were 3 of them were along the state routes and 1 was on the county route. Permitting process across all this, our region for IDOT, it's taken forever for them to grant access to put the poles and the cameras in the right of way in their right of ways. So a year later, from 2023 to March of 2024, I worked with Flock to put up 4 temporary cameras in the meantime, and as the original 4 were going through the permitting process, so we could utilize that technology starting after putting them on local roadways. So, and no additional cost for us. And as a reminder, because we did it in March of 2023, there was a price increase that was going into effect in April of 2023. We would have paid an additional $7,000 for those 4 cameras. So if we move forward today, that new price increase would come into play for the new cameras, not the old cameras, so, or the original cameras. So some of the concerns that are being raised have also been brought forward at the Illinois Chiefs Association. This was not just a local issue, it's been at the state issue and at multi-state. So the Illinois Chiefs Association worked with the ACLU to come up with a specific language when the law was crafted and the provisions that prohibited certain actions with law enforcement and the use of this data. So some of those items that are out there are, basically how long, the retention time, what are you going to look at? And just to clarify, when a camera or a vehicle passes through the camera view of a Flock camera, it's capturing either the front of the vehicle or the rear vehicle, and if it has a plate. So it's not capturing anyone inside. There's no facial recognition. It's not capturing drivers. It's not capturing witnesses. It's only capturing the vehicle and the plate. And it doesn't capture all vehicles and plates because sometimes those plates or the vehicles, and it could be blocked from another vehicle passing alongside it. It could be the weather conditions from fog to rain to anything else. It's whatever the technology that's out there, it's there. So what we see in the field is we can pull up still pictures of a vehicle that passed in front of the camera, or when we get an alert, it will show us the camera that it went in front of, the date and the time. So basically location, date and time, and the license plate. And the information that typically that goes across is what's called a hit. And it's searching a national database, NCIC, it's searching Illinois database, which is our leads database, which contains our vehicle registration information. And then it's also hitting our local list. And what our local list might be is we're going after a hit and run suspect or vehicle. We're looking for known retail theft offenders that are constantly coming to our grocery store or our drugstore, and we're getting this plate, and it will alert the officers that vehicle is now entered into Sugar Grove. Now, hopefully they'll get to those stores and then they can be on the lookout for that to occur. And then there's other things too. So what's captured on what's called a hot list is people that are wanted for certain offense, for all offenses, criminal offenses. There's amber alerts for anyone who's abducted a child, or a silver alert for someone that might have some mental capabilities that are no longer intact and they're driving across the state. So we might get something out of Minnesota or Wisconsin that gets entered in there and they're just driving aimlessly around the different states or even here in the Chicagoland area. You see those up on the message boards. So the system uploads once a day a new hot list to the brain to the brain box at those cameras, and then it will send an alert. However, if an Amber Alert is just entered, or Silver Alert is entered, that will push in addition to the annual one, because they don't want to wait 24 hours and that vehicle's gone. So no driver's license information is in those camera systems. No people that are driving those vehicles is in that system. And that's just, the system's capturing cars and plates, and that go by. Like I said, sometimes there's no plates on a vehicle. So, and the technology has been a boost for our law enforcement in the sense that we are now able to do a search when we do get a retail theft, or we do have, I'm going to have Steve talk about some of those cases that would help. The technology has helped us bring back runaways, bring back other offenses that have been some great cases. Because of this technology, we wouldn't have had without the technology that's available to us. So we still, getting back to the fixed locations, there's 4 designated fixed locations on the original list that we procure, 3 of them on state routes, 1 of them on county road. On the county road, the camera that's anticipated, still waiting permitting at 47, just south of 88, is still awaiting permitting process. So as long as that is not installed, we have those 4 temporary cameras throughout our local roadways that we're able to continue to have. So right now we have 7 operational cameras, and we're paying for 4 of them. So I'm going to go, and Tracy, do you mind pulling up? And this was just recently added to our website. And I believe some of you might have received some information. So this is what the flat cameras look like. And I want to caveat here is this is not the only ALPR technology that we have. We also have this mobile in all our squad cars. Our Exxon fleet cameras that we drive around, which is a CarNet mobile system, also has the same integration of automatic license plate. It works in the same manner, except we're mobile with it. So if you can, so you see those around town. There's a couple of them when you come off of 56 and going on 56 to 88. Those are not ours. Those are provided by Kane County Sheriff's Office. They had those installed a few years ago. So we're grateful. They put a number of them throughout the communities. So that helps save us some costs on an annual basis, not having, they share that with us, but not having to go and purchase additional cameras. It's a major thoroughfare. So if you scroll down, we put in some stuff about, the information that we previously we put in some FAQs that are out here for the public. And then we also put out our policy and our procedures. So, and there's some hyperlinks there. If you can click on the ALPR transparency portal for me, the bottom one. This is our transparency. This comes directly from Flock and it gets updated. This captures basically our last 30 days worth of use. So you can see our data retention is 30 days. So unless, and I'm going to caveat that, unless we put something in the system that we're looking for somebody, or, and this might be a, let's, God forbid, a homicide suspect. If it drops off after 30 days and it re-enter our community, we need to know that. So number of cameras owned is actually 4. It says 7, but that's what we have in the community right now. I'm going down the right side. This is the number of vehicles that have driven in front of the camera. Our cameras, those 7 cameras is right there. And then the number of hot list hits in the last 30 days, look at that. 1,250 cars have driven past these. They're wanted, they're suspended, they're revoked. They might be a sex offender, whatever it is, that's how many have gone by. And then that's the number of searches that we have conducted. Sugar Grove employee, law enforcement officer has conducted 12 of them in the last 30 days. And I want to be I want to make sure that it doesn't mean we had 12 cases that were searched on. We might have to go into the system, okay, Walgreens gave us a partial plate, so we try to run it. Did any of these cars pass in front of that, one of the cameras with this partial plate? Nope. Okay, they gave us, it's a white Ford. All right, now we're gonna go down and put down, because the system will capture, like I said, the front or back end, and it might capture a white Ford. Then we'll go in and we'll do a search based on the time frame that a retail theft or someone else has come in, or a fraud, a prescription fraud offender comes to town, and we can go in there and do that. So we might do multiple searches on a single case. So that 12 is most likely multiple searches on a single case, so the number of cases that are going up. So, but the information, I'm sorry, we're gonna go to the left side, if you don't mind, to go back up for me, Tracy. You know, again, what's detected, license plates of vehicles, what's not detected, facial recognition, people, gender, race, and then data is used for law enforcement purposes, and we own the data that comes into Sugar Grove. No one else owns it, not even Flock. So it's all encrypted and it all disappears. Now the data is shared amongst law enforcement if we have a reciprocal agreement with them to share their cameras with us. So prohibited uses by state statutes. We can't use it for immigration enforcement, traffic enforcement, harassment, or intimidation uses based solely on protected class. So, so there's some protections that are built in. But again, access policy, it requires for us when we do these searches, we have to put in reason why we're doing the search. It just can't be, I'm searching, I just want to find out about some vehicle that went by. We can't do that. So we have policies in place, and then the hot list policy. So I'm going to have Steve talk about a little bit about success with the ALPR system, and I'll talk about what Flock is willing to do.
Just off the searches, probably 5 to 6 of them are pursuant in that last 30 days to like a local agency had a suspect vehicle to see that in an offense, like Elbert had a hit and run that was lasting south on 47, you know, one time, and then I think Batavia had one coming down Bliss Road, you know, run the plate to see if it passed any of our fixed cameras on there, to see if it's something I need to worry about on that. So just a few quick success stories. So we had, there were 2 missing juveniles, one from a neighboring community, one from our community. They stole mom and dad's car, and they were absconding. I want to say it was one of the Carolinas, but some southeastern state was the intent to go live in some cabin in the woods. Had some information as to the direction of travel and timing on it. I was able to get ahead of them and have Indiana State Police put it in, some fixed cameras that they have on there. They were able to be picked up. They hit a plate. It was in the area of I-65, south of the 80, 90, 94, that whole mess. So the direction of travel, everything matched. If I hadn't had that information, they got a hit. They exited the expressway, got off to go. There was an Arby's parking lot. They parked it, and the trooper, like within 2 minutes of getting that hit, found a pipe in the backseat of the car. And we recovered the car and recovered them, and mom and dad had to go pick them up over at the Lake County Juvenile Detention Facility and have a nice ride home, I'm sure. It was instrumental in follow-up investigation. Last spring, I want to say we had a attempted vehicle hijacking. A guy came up from the city and tried to take off a liquor truck up at the gas station up at 47 of Levanzi, up there. I was able to, through search warrants and some various things, but the initial hit on it came from Chicago Police, has them all over. It's a different system, but it works substantially similar to Flock. That license plate showed the offender traveling to the area of the liquor distribution warehouse with the assistance of Cicero PD. They were able to access the system, show them following it out and through the route, and then accessing some other cameras on the toll highways. I had them at every single point that there was a camera available within a vehicle length of that liquor distribution truck up to including exiting the tollway up there, coming in here. Recovered 2 loaded firearms off of traffic stops based on license plate hits, 1 this year, currently 1 last year. Some controlled substance, cocaine off of a suspended remote driver on that. A aggravated fleeing and eluding habitual offender here within the town. License plate reader hit, showed him traveling past after he'd been calling our front desk complaining about coming to pick something up off of a previous arrest. The license plate reader hit off another set of suspended plates. He proceeded to take off on me on it. Ultimately, we're still looking for him on that one, but he's got a warrant amongst various other ones still waiting for him whenever he just has to show back up in the area. And I'm sure you've probably seen a few things in the recent or local areas. If you drive up and down Esker Road out there, Fast and the Furious crews using it as a drag strip on Friday, Saturday nights, generally speaking, on that. That's an ongoing issue throughout the entire area. Just recently, between Christmas and New Year's, Villa Park, they took over North Avenue at 64 and Villa, and we're driving in there, and I think one of them ended up wrecking on it. But we've seen groups well in excess of 100 vehicles out in that area, and then some, and they're the same players every single time. There's technology within that flock camera system now that we get an alert when they hear squealing tires. I don't know if that works or not, but it could be used and instrumental in that. When you have the same groups of people come, Esker Road, nobody has really, generally speaking, unless they live in the area, at 1 o'clock in the morning to be driving up and down there, and then there's 300 cars coming through there with a 45-minute period. Sooner or later you can get a pretty good idea of who's coming. If those, that information was to be used and shared, these cameras would let you know. It'd be kind of nice to know where they're going, because they got like 2 places to check in town to go look for them if we're getting hits. It's all quiet at 1 o'clock in the morning, but all of a sudden you start getting, because it makes noise when you're logged into the system. And it's, that's 1,250 hits. They range, a lot of them can be valid, a lot of them are spurious. Like a U can be construed for a V because the camera's shooting at an angle or what have you. A lot of them are the same plate, but it's a stolen vehicle out of like Ohio. It doesn't know that the state is the state of Illinois, you're getting a hit on that. But generally speaking, if there's a warrant attached to a vehicle, I've seen that. I just stopped a car out here last week, had a child molestation warrant attached to the plate. Was a relative of the suspect. He wasn't in the car with it, but it's kind of nice to know that that's traveling around the area in there. And it's got tons of technology. In my 20 years of doing this, I've seen a lot of technology come and go, and this is probably the most impressive thing that I've seen. I've seen technology that's been invested, it doesn't work. This works, and it's going to continue to get better as the system gets built out.
And Steve, one of our power users and been phenomenal and making a lot of great arrests based on this technology. So, it has helped us. It has, made us more efficient. And it's typically, it's not effective to our day-to-day residents unless they're, someone that needs to be looked at by law enforcement. So as you saw the number of vehicles that passed in front of our 7 cameras, we're not stopping that many in 30 days. We're not seeing, we're not searching on those vehicles. Again, they all have to be vetted. Just because it's in the system, it's 24 hours old, they might have taken care of that warrant in the last 24 hours or taken care of the other stuff. So there's more information that has to be determined. It just helps direct the officers to look a little bit further and run some more information. So Flock has provided us with paperwork if we want to take advantage of continuing to utilize the temporary cameras when last one gets installed up on north of 47 there, they have sent us a quote to maintain it. Our desire is to take 3 of the temporary cameras, maybe keep them in their existing location. 2 of them we may move to other locations because there's better access points for us to see more. And then one of the cameras, it's over by the roundabout, and we already have one installed on US 30. We'll move the roundabout one on the local roadway on Dugan, and we'd like to put that on our mobile speed trailer. And that's exactly what Steve was talking about. We have these racers, that these trucks, they're chasing them from Aurora to North Aurora to Naperville and all over the western suburbs. They're coming into town, they're on Prairie Street, from Route 47 all the way up over to Dugan Road, and they're constantly running, and they're just trying to stay ahead of the police officers.
It's all fueled through social media. So you break muster out in one location, and then they just find another spot to gather up. And they've got 20, 30 spots in the general area where they're out at one night. Most of these vehicles shouldn't even be on the road that participate in that.
So, but there's a cost involved for it. If we were to take advantage of it for this year, it would have to, before the end of April, it'd have to come out of, potentially come out of surplus funds, and that's what we're here for. We're in support of it as a police agency to maintain those 4 cameras. We don't have a time frame when the state's going to authorize the last camera to be installed. I just don't want them to pull them, and then we'll start the process all over. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chief.
Chief, can you, I'm a little bit concerned, I guess, about the mobile camera. Because to me, we don't have that piece of equipment out very often, or signpost is what we're talking about, right?
One of the mobile, we could place them in, yes, correct, on one of the speed trailers, correct.
Well, is that the plan?
Yes.
Or is that,
yes.
How often do we even have that out? I'm just wondering if we should maybe make that a permanent one rather than temporary.
It would be,
mobile.
the idea is obviously we have hotspots. It'd be nice to move it around the community versus having it being fixed, and we don't capture the stuff that's happening, like you said, for other activities, or we start seeing crime happening in certain areas. It'd be nice to have that out there.
Maybe I didn't understand the whole thing that we were talking about with the groups and stuff. Is this, because it sounded to me like you were talking about enforcement.
It's safety. They're running 100+ miles per hour.
That's traffic.
That's traffic. It is traffic. That is one sort of traffic enforcement. So yes, and maybe that was a bad example for it, but it would alert our guys, because we're always getting the calls from the adjacent property owners. This would just tell us, hey, there's a known vehicle that's part of this group that just gone through this camera. Then we can start dedicating resources.
They're not issuing citations based off of the camera
No.
pictures.
And
It's just alerting them that they're in the area doing illegal activities. Officers will go there, witness it firsthand based upon the alert, and then write the citations there, file to have the probable cause to write it. So it's not like they're looking at these cameras and then writing a ticket after the fact and just sending it. I think that's right.
So it's not like a red light camera.
Yeah, these are
speed
no,
camera.
it's correct.
And our presence might prevent, if we get alerted to them before they even have time to muster up. If a squad car goes driving down there, they'll just move on. They will be Plano's problem, or King County Sheriff's problem, or something else. They'll move on to another area.
So they'll upload the information every day, 24 hours. But if somebody is on that hot list and they come by, you get an instant.
We do. We get an instant alert for those that are on duty.
Okay.
If they're in their squad car.
There's a little latency on the camera on there, but it's usually within 5 seconds or so.
Oh, that won't.
Chief, you want to just maybe bring up too that this is not just a law enforcement, not just law enforcement owns these
Right.
cameras. So a lot of repo trucks, tow trucks currently have them already. They're driving through the parking lots, they're already driving down our roadways. So they do not have access themselves to the LPRs, but we do as law enforcement officials, we're able to look at those as well. I think you're aware of the neighborhood ones, right? We had that discussion about the neighborhoods have them at the beginning and the entrances to neighborhoods. Once again, they do not have access to that information, but law enforcement does. So if you have someone breaking into homes or cars in the middle of the night in a neighborhood has them at the entrances, that the police are able to look at that. So it's not just a law enforcement able to own it. I know parking lots, some major parking lots have them.
Yeah, we have a business in town, 2 businesses that share a camera for their own protection, that they have that in front of their businesses. So
Do they have access to the information as an owner of the camp or as a payor?
No, it comes to law enforcement if they allow access to us. Typically when it's purchased by a private person, yes. So so there's 2 types there's multiple variations of lock. Ours are still camera. They're not video recorded. You can't go back and pull the video of it. It's still, there are other ones that, Steve was talking about in some of the other investigations, they were moving ones that you can watch the cars go by. So this captures the front or the back of the car.
So does the retail establishment or the tow truck, they have the readers and that feeds to the police department?
The database, NBLS, is a system that utilizes it. What they typically use is, they are repo, so the banks pay and they get money to go and repossess a vehicle. That will then pinpoint, if they are looking for a vehicle, they can find it. So they have certain access to where those cars are at. So if they drive through a lot of hotel parking lots, they drive through a lot of apartments or businesses at nighttime and during the day, and then they can say, okay, we just got an alert, we're looking for this vehicle or this license plate, and they don't have to spend tracking down where that owner, the finance owner, supposedly works or lives. They can see it's typically parked 3 days in a row at this location. So they have limited information, but that information then gets uploaded into the system, and law enforcement has a little bit more information that they can glean from it.
But they wouldn't get our information.
They do not get any of ours. We own law enforcement, specifically R4 cameras. It's encrypted. The sign-on's encrypted for a law enforcement officer to look at it. And it's not owned, and it can't be third-party sold by Flock or anyone else.
So if Aurora has something happen,
Yes.
they then, okay, maybe we haven't agreed with it, I don't know. But they would not have, if their bad guy came through town, they wouldn't know it. And we might not know it for a day.
Correct.
But they could call.
Yes.
And say, we've got somebody who we believe is heading your way, can you guys keep them?
We
Do a
can
search for this.
Right. We can do a search for it, as well as we can put an automatic hot list item in there, and that doesn't have to wait the 24 hours. So we can manually put it into our 4 cameras.
Can they put it in? Can
No.
Aurora put it in?
No.
But we can
No.
share.
We can share hot list files with each other, so that way, and that's how we're alerted to a lot of these multiple time offenders are going in and stealing thousands of dollars of liquor. So those guys are on a hot list that's shareable amongst communities, that it just tells you, hey, this car is associated with a huge retail theft crew that's coming in. And then we have to do our own investigation. Where is it going? Did it stop here, and should it go over and continue? So yeah, we can ask to share hot list files. But most agencies, we still live in silos. Most agencies aren't sharing their own hot list files. So.
Okay, can we move some of the locations even a few feet? I think it looks bad having the one reader on the south sign, on our city sign, on the village sign. I think it's mounted to that, or close to it.
On 47?
Yeah.
Is it on the Village Sugar Grove sign?
No, it's on a single pole.
It's real close to the sign, and, you know, it's like, you see the sign and you see the reader, and I think it detracts from our sign. So, that, you know,
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
more
so-
aesthetics than,
Understood. So,
Yeah, it's not huge.
Yeah, we would have to go through the permanent process with
Yeah,
IDOT
right,
again,
no.
and then also pay them. Anytime we move, there's installation
No.
fees, so it's not a quick, hey, other agencies would be constantly moving their cameras
for the future.
And then just to, I saw that we've got a 2-year subscription basically with these. So if we, or any future board says, or if you say, you know what, we're just not getting the value out of it, but we have this recurring annual fee.
Correct.
You
You
just,
can opt out.
You just simply say, okay, we're gonna
Yes,
go ahead and take it back, we're done.
correct. Yeah, they're not.
So we're not locked in for 10 years or anything like that.
Correct.
And the mobile one, when you talk about the mobile one, are you talking about adhering it to what is like the Public Works mobile trailer?
Our speed trailer, our one that displays the sign, and
That it attaches to a pole?
it attaches to the frame of the speed trailer so that we can move that to different neighborhoods or different commercial established areas.
But again, I ask, how often is that used?
Well, if we put a flock camera on there, we'll use it a lot more. So,
The sheriff's office has, I believe, 2 mobile ones that they utilize. Sometimes they're in the area, sometimes they're not. Like Kate out there, you'll see it out there, that one generally has a camera on it sometimes.
it's at just north of 88 on 47 for many, many months. So it'll capture information for us coming in and leaving Sugar Grove. And then also like going on to the tollways.
Thank you. Go ahead.
One, I had a question. Do you know how often the Flox cameras misread a license plate? So say somebody stole something and take a look at it and it misreads the license plate, but misread license plate goes onto the hot list and you guys get it, then you pull over the wrong car.
No, and I appreciate that because I think that's a valid point. So typically, it's just one piece of our investigative tools. We have to verify it before we're going to put it in, and we'll run it separate. I mean, let's say a commercial business provides us with a car that stole something and fled. We would then verify that information before we even would put it into the camera system. So we would have to run it into leads, and if it matches up, okay. And then we would also look to see, did it pass through one of our cameras? Because right now we don't have everything in Sugar Grove, and we don't want everything in Sugar Grove covered. So if it passes in one of our cameras, the likelihood and the confidence, this is our vehicle. Because people mistakenly switch numbers and the plates are with partial plates. And then we have to do some more investigative, and we may not be able to put ones in that we can't determine were involved, you know. But that typically is not something that we stop vehicles for. There usually has to be a warrant for their arrest on that side. You know, someone's already done the back end legwork to put it into the system.
Because I know some police departments have gotten into trouble earlier on with a misread license plate.
Yeah, we see that all the time. But we have to verify the plate that is a state. It's the numbers that might be off. We get some of those hits are misreads.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was
so
gonna
that's
say.
technology.
If I stop that thing and like, so I'm walking up to the car and say, I read it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 was the license plate, and the 6 was a Jeep or something, that it mistook it. I noticed that as I'm walking up the stop, I'm done. That stops, I'm dead in the water on that because it's a bad stop. So,
yeah.
So you don't automatically go on the hot list. It has to be manually entered by an officer.
But,
or the state.
Or the state.
Or the state.
And I use it quite often, so I'm pretty well versed in it. One of the other ways is actually protects people. For instance, if that person leaves and we're looking for say a black Suburban, the license plate's like 1, 2, 3, 4. When it leaves, I can look that 1, 2, 3, 4 up, and all of a sudden that comes back to a white GMC, I now know that that plate's wrong, and that's not what I'm looking for. In the past, you might have put that out to everybody looking for this car, and then you realize later that that's wrong. It actually saves time and energy as you're looking for these offenders and all these crimes. So it's used usefully. It's useful, and it can be used when it's used in the right way, and if you use it often. Chief, I know concerns come up a lot. Just jump in real quick, just for the policy violations on this. If an officer misuses it, can you kind of explain what would happen to that person?
Absolutely. So this is no different from any of our other technology that officers have access to. So this is just one small segment of a lot of access that we already have access to. So it would fall into the same categories. So if someone misuses leads, someone runs a plate because of some wrong reason, they're subject to they're subject to department rules violations. They're also subject to the state law enforcement leads bureau coming down on them and could potentially take away leads access for that officer. And if it's systemic within the organization, they'll put them on basically recommendation list that you need to fix all this stuff. So it doesn't happen, often, but there's enough that they can shut down their leads access, and then they can't get any returns coming back. So, but yeah, we can go ahead and someone who misuses any of the information, including ALPR, is subject to discipline. So.
In some cases, it's termination.
And termination, yes. Yeah.
First of all, I want to say that I have great respect for our police department and the wonderful job they're doing for our community. But, surprise, surprise, I'm opposed to adding additional license plate readers to the village. I feel it will create a legal liability to the village and infringement on our residents' Fourth Amendment rights. The board approved only 4 license plate readers. Doubling the number of points residents can be tracked moving around our village creates a real concern over our rights of privacy being violated. Taking a single picture of a resident's license plate on public roads is not a violation. I understand that. But when you have 8 cameras all over the village tracking our residents' movements, that creates a mosaic of movements of an individual that would be the same as placing a GPS tracker on our cars or tracking our movements from our phone signals, all without a warrant. I would suggest looking at United States versus Jones from 2012 for the GPS tracking question, Carpenter versus United States in 2018 for cell phone tracking rulings. And these rulings state that the government can't have a warrantless search of a person's geolocation history. How is that different when you have 8 license plate readers in our small village tracking cars constantly? How is that different? Now, in Commonwealth versus McCarthy, which is in 2020, that was regarding license plate readers specifically. The courts did hold that there wasn't enough data that was collected from license plate readers in this case to constitute the Fourth Amendment search. But the court did warn that if more cameras were used, then the Fourth Amendment search could be triggered. There were only 4 license plate readers used in that case. We're looking at doubling that number. Surely that would trigger a Fourth Amendment issue. There is currently a court case, Schull versus Illinois State Police in 2024, that is a suit against the state of Illinois regarding the use of license plate readers, alleging that they subject every citizen who relies on a car or truck for transportation to a warrantless, suspicionless dragnet surveillance. This case has not yet been decided, if I'm correct? Correct. And knowing that, I think it would be fiscally irresponsible for us to spend over $14,000 of unbudgeted money on a system that may soon be ruled unconstitutional and useless to us. And I know license plate readers can be a very useful tool in law enforcement, but so would having every citizen's DNA on file or tracking every citizen's phone, their locations by their phones. But we don't do that because it's an invasion of privacy. Having so many points to determine everywhere we drive in our village is also an invasion of our privacy. Ask yourself, would you vote to install GPS tracking on everyone who enters this village? And if not, what's the difference between GPS tracking and 8 license plate readers that are all throughout our small village? So, I recognize the powerfulness and the usefulness of this tool, but I ask my fellow board members to recognize that this is a potential violation of the Fourth Amendment against everyone who enters the village of Sugar Grove, and especially our residents. And think of that before you make your vote.
Thank you, Heidi.
As a parent, for that first story, I'd gladly pay $14,000 in an instant to get my kid back, without question. I understand what you're saying, but that 2 kids run away, they take a car, they run away. $14,000 is a drop in the bucket versus having my kid somewhere on the road, no idea where they're at, no idea what's going on. Money's not an issue when it comes to safety.
What about being tracked?
If I'm a felon, yeah, I wouldn't want it.
I get tracked every time I drive past these.
When I was in the Army, my DNA is on file, so.
I'm not in the Army, and I'm
Right.
being tracked.
But there's no reason, like, you're a good person. What are they gonna do with your
Think of the
information?
slippery slope that we're looking at.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to look at the big picture on this and look, there have been court cases that say that it's a real chance of this being a Fourth Amendment violation. If you create a mosaic of all these breadcrumbs of where somebody's going, now you have this personal information on them. It's just as if you're putting a GPS tracking system on their car.
Laura, can you make a
It's
comment?
not, it's
on
not
that?
the same. So real quick, sorry.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
GPS tracking system on the car, your cell phone towers, actually pinpoint your exact location or within, say, 100, 1,500 meters of it. This does not do that. This gives you a snapshot of where you had been in the past. It does not give a current location. It would be us up to law enforcement to locate the roadways you're traveling. In the state of Illinois, you don't have the right, it's not an inherent right to be on the roadway and to travel. When you get your driver's license, they expressly explain that to you, saying this is not your right, this is a privilege. So you therefore give up some of your rights as you drive on the roadways in the state of Illinois. But to compare GPS tracking to a picture of a license plate, that's like apples and oranges. When you're looking in the totality of how law enforcement conducts business, that's why you do need a search warrant for the tracking devices, or you do need a search warrant or a pen registry, which is the history of your cell phone towers. And those court cases are pretty clear cut when it comes to detailing exactly where you're at. When you ping a person's phone now for certain things, you have to meet these certain qualifications in order to ping to get that person's exact location. These cameras do not give you an exact location. It gives you a spot where the car used to be at.
Well, what you're getting is you're getting a person's geolocation history by multiple data points.
Right,
And
but I'm saying
that
GPS
you
is totally
can't
different.
get without a warrant.
You
You're
get
not
the
supposed to.
vehicle's location, you're not necessarily getting a person.
How long is the information stored?
30 days.
And then it's completely deleted. So after 30
Unless
days,
there's an active investigation, as I said before, trying to locate a vehicle that was used in, let's say, as I gave the example, murder, they returned to the community.
I have one that just happened, if you don't mind, I'll be done for this topic, but just recently, I think I might even brought it up at this last meeting about this, was a child got picked up from school. and it was not by their parent. The parent got there, and the teacher said, your daughter just got in the car with this guy and left, and came out as a kidnapping. The parents were beside themselves. I think she was 8 years old. She got in this car. She had some medical issues that the family was extremely concerned about, and within minutes, we were able to pinpoint where the car had been. So we knew the car had just traveled through an intersection in town. Within a couple more minutes, an officer was in the area further up the road, saw the car, stopped the car. Within minutes, we recovered this girl. So put your daughter in the same situation. This could be somehow your daughter got into a car with the wrong person. Luckily, this turned out that it was an Uber picking up another child from school. The wrong child got into the car. It was completely innocuous. There was no criminal behavior behind it. But if we had not had that tool, that child would have been long gone in this car and probably would not have been able to stop and recover that kid before it got to the end of the destination. Luckily, that child was in no harm. However, just think about it that it was. And the amount of time that we saved by saying, a car left here, just hit this intersection 2 minutes ago. If it's westbound on this road, most likely it will be in this area. We can send and direct people into that area and we recover. So I think about things like that. I don't care so much about them taking a picture of my plate knowing that I'm driving down municipal, because I know the totality of this whole thing is for things like that. But I understand where you're coming from. I just wanted, that was a real life experience I was part of, and I'm like, man, that was my daughters that did that. I am so glad that happened.
Personally, I would like to have my kids put in little bubbles and relief. Okay, yeah. So I understand that, you know. But also I know that this technology has been used to track people to mosques, to track people to various political conventions, to track, you know, it can be misused. There have been cases where police officers have used it to track their exes, you know, and no, that's not a proper use, and yes, they have it. But I am concerned at this much information for everyone around, how easy it can be misused. And yes, where I would like I said, I understand it is extremely valuable, powerful tool, but I step back and I look at what freedoms are we giving up? What are we creating? Are we creating that everywhere I go in this village, there's a chance of my license plate being picked off? And yeah, it does bring back a little bit of 1984. And I just ask everyone to think about that.
You're also getting picked off in every other community right now, not just the village of Sugar Grove. So it sounds like the clock cameras are utilized in other municipalities. So whether or not we approve them, you're still getting detected elsewhere.
I only have control over this community.
Understood, but they are tracking you elsewhere. The way I look at this is I completely understand where you're coming from, and misuse is misuse, whether we have flock cameras or they misuse some other device that they have access to. There are bad people out there hiding, and they're going to misuse whatever they can. I look at it kind of similarly to them in the sense that if we can prevent the bad guys, if you will, or criminal activity, or get on top of it quicker from coming into our village, or if it does come into our village, if they're reactionary to it, we're making our community safer. I know you don't agree with that statement. It is how I feel about law enforcement in general. Yes, there's been obviously a lot of history with certain law enforcement, and but unfortunately, like anything, a few bad apples give the whole group a bad name. I wouldn't say that's where we're at as a community. I like to know that when we talk about, I mean, I saw the other day my neighbor who leaves their garage like 2 feet open so that their dog has access through the day to inside outside. I got home at 1:30 in the morning from my road trip and their garage door was open 1.5 feet. There could be criminal activity of someone getting into that house because that garage was open that much. I know law enforcement, when they drive through the community, does a good job to alert any resident that has left their garage door open. But we have known in this community that people have broken into cars, they've gotten into garages, they've pulled weapons. I don't want that here. For the safety, the one spot in your whole world where you should feel safe is at home, in your community. And I want to feel that way. I like knowing that they're working as hard as they are. I like knowing that these cameras are out there protecting us. I like knowing, which was crazy. I had no idea what was happening the day that incident happened at the gas station at the BP. But I was driving Henry to school, and I saw your squad because you were driving the whiteout vehicle at that intersection. All these police cars, and I thought, well, that's a hell of a traffic stop. I kept going out of school. But I like knowing that whatever was happening, they were taking care of it. And it was a dangerous situation. To me, I know we're all different, that's a safety thing for me. I feel more comfortable in our community knowing that we've got all this technology looking out for all of us.
I guess I understand the safety concern, and I understand it is useful in a lot of ways. But I am concerned about big picture, our rights. Where can it go? I mean, it would be a lot safer and easier for the police department if every citizen gave up their DNA. It would be a lot easier. We don't do it.
I'd give it, right?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement for flag safety for 4 additional license plate recognition.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a first out of trustee Michaels, a second out of trustee Shulman. Just for clarification, everybody's made their points, so I know that was a motion that came in, so we have discussed it at length. So, roll call, please.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy.
Nay.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Morrow?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1. Thank you, everyone. It was a good discussion. Up next, we have approval of the on-premises liquor license for Maris Primo's Restaurant Incorporated located at 495 North Sugar Grove Parkway. Tracy, this is just a new business owner.
New business owner, new license.
Existing location.
Existing location, no additional licenses need to be.
Motion to approve. Second, they have awesome tacos.
Thank you. I have a first out of trustee White, a second out of trustee Showmess. Any other discussion? Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy.
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
For the tacos, aye.
Trustee Lundy.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries 6-0. Public comment on our agenda this evening, we also have the discussion for the dark skies ordinance. So any and all public comment, but also we will be discussing the dark skies ordinance. Any other public comment at this time? Going once, going twice, 3 times, we'll close that portion. Okay, up next, dark skies ordinance, Danny.
Okay, the village is proposing to amend the village's zoning ordinance and the outdoor illumination section and adopt regulations that align with the dark sky ordinance. Recently, with the Grove PDD, these regulations were adopted for that development, and we felt that it would be good to adopt these across the village. So the Plan Commission held the required public hearing, discussed the proposed text amendment, and had no concerns and made a positive recommendation for the village board to approve the proposed text amendment. You did receive an email from me today outlining 2 items in the Exhibit A that our village engineer called out when we were discussing how these would tie into the engineering manual that we are also working on adopting. The first one that he called out was the street lighting language. In the original Exhibit A, it did not have LED lights, and we are working to convert all of our street lights to LED, so he asked that that language be changed. And the other language that he called out was the time frame for seasonal decorations. He increased the time that seasonal decorations could be up prior to a holiday and the time after a holiday, because the village's seasonal decorations don't always come down in the time frame that was originally proposed due to weather. So this is to better help. The village stay in compliance compliance with our ordinance. So we are asking the board to provide staff with direction on preparing the needed ordinance for approval.
What will happen to existing outdoor lighting? Will they have to comply at some point, or if they can for building?
They will not have to comply until they update their outdoor illumination. So if they replace the fixtures, then they'll have to comply to the new standards.
Does the village streetlights, do we provide shielding to keep it down?
Yeah, the LED ones are focused down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can adjust them too, they have adjustment screw on them, so we set them all the same, so they look like the standard light.
Okay.
Just don't have our bulb on it anymore. You know,
A lot of some of the newer ones are pedestal lights, like in front of my house.
The decoratives.
The decoratives,
Yeah.
those don't have.
And these
Those are all
standards
down, yeah.
do exclude streetlights from most of the requirements.
Oh,
Yeah.
But to Trustee Michael's earlier discussion, if, or earlier question, if somebody was grandfathered in, do we normally require, like if McDonald's is gonna update an outdoor sconce that they've got, that they have to get, you know, some sort of pre-approval by the village, or, excuse me, I lost my train of thought, but whatever, they have to come and pay a fee to get a work order that they can do.
They have
Permit, thank you, that's the word.
They have to get a permit, and as part of the permit process,
Okay, that's how
we
they're gonna be
review it to
notified,
make
this
sure.
light needs to meet.
Yeah.
All right. That's it.
I have a question on the exclusion. Number 4 is temporary lighting used for holiday decoration. Do we need that with number 1 in place?
It is a little repetitive. We were just copying exactly what we used in the Crown PDD to make it consistent.
Do we need to define holidays?
Well, so number 4 doesn't have a limitation.
Right.
And number 1 does. I think I'd rather see number 4 come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I missed it number 4.
Sure. I mean, I've seen people put up lights, you know, they'll decorate a small tree as an Easter tree. Maybe they're just keeping
They
their
haven't
Christmas
taken
lights
down the
up, but,
Christmas tree yet.
you know, but, well, I'm saying outside, you know, like maybe they'll change the lights from white to a pastel or something like that. And certainly people are doing them, you know, fall Halloween decorations are becoming all like fall. I've seen people start with 4th of July. I'm worried that we may be creating a situation where the village is gonna get a bunch of phone calls because someone's complaining that someone put up lights on a tree for Valentine's Day and it was outside of some holiday.
We have this regulation in our illumination standards as it stands right now.
Oh, it does today? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, then never mind.
I know there's a house in Stratford that has uplighting into the trees. It's pretty bright.
Yeah. I know that, I was talking
Yeah.
about.
So one of the things that I found in my research on this before the Crown was that having the requirement that they have to update when they change lights, one of the issues it raises is for an industrial or commercial user, are they going to let their stuff go into disrepair so that they don't have to upgrade? And so that's just, I just say that so that you're aware of it. I like the ordinance, I'm in favor of dark sky, but that is one of the issues that I saw when I was going through it.
Would that be a code enforcement issue, property code enforcement issue?
It could fall under it, depending on the extent of disrepair they let it go into, yeah.
Is this code modified or following some other communities?
Yes, it was, there's a darksky.org website that some of this was pulled off of, and then I forget the community that this was copied from.
I think Homer Glen.
Homer Glen, yeah, I think it was Homer Glen.
It's becoming pretty widespread. A lot of communities are just adopting the standard straight off of the website there. Yeah, it's picking up a lot of traction. It's the secondary effects from it, right? This is primarily based on minimizing, you know, light noise, so you can't see the stars in the sky and that sort of stuff. But the secondary effects are you're saving a lot of money, because in essence, it's strongly suggesting, if not mandating, LED lights and that sort of stuff, right, that you get as kind of a secondary effect for it. Yeah, that's what I know about it. So, yeah, I think if we're following the standard, there's a lot of practice in place already with it. And there's, you know, to the casual observer driving down the street and looking at the house, you're not going to see much of a difference. It's just subtle changes and, you know, some of the lights and the sconces and those sorts of things that are on the sides of the houses. But I think it gives I actually like the look, to tell you the truth. It looks much more charming and inviting but that's my 2 cents.
It really is more geared towards the commercial properties, industrial properties, that they're not,
Yes.
So I used to, when I used to go hunting down in southern Illinois, I used to drive at some ungodly hour of the morning to the hunt ground. And one year I was driving there and I just saw this glow in front of me. And it was a new truck.
Oh,
Just-
yeah,
it was
you'll
just
see it on the
amazing.
horizon. It's
Just
nuts.
You know, so I don't want to see that.
Yeah, well, there is speaking of that, I don't know what the business is, but I assume it's on Green Road. And
It's
the red light that permeates the sky over that business.
the greenhouse.
Yeah, I mean, in the summertime, I'm like, what's on fire? What's on fire? But not this time of year, plain as day, that is some serious light pollution that's
My
going on.
daughter was telling me it was the Northern Lights last week when we were driving home from Geneva, and I'm like, no.
No. And it's not on fire.
You'll see them.
But I think that moves the village in the right direction. It's good for nature, it's good for conserving energy, and I think that really most people appreciate the dark skies and the effort being made. So directing staff to move forward with amending the ordinance and bringing it back.
Could I ask you a quick question?
Of course, Michael.
If an existing business, is this where it's about replacing their lighting, or is it about upgrading the lighting system? They would have to convert to it.
When they replace their fixtures, like if the light bulb burns out, they can replace their light bulb.
Okay, so if the light bulb itself is replaced, which all light bulbs have to be replaced at some point, it's the fixtures that this impacts. Got it, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry I didn't ask that. Well, of course, we did ask that before.
Well, because if you said it would have to be light bulbs, and then you're not grandfathering anybody in, because everyone's got to replace your light bulb at some point.
And then you would have an objection to that, huh? From an economic development standpoint.
We should call it grandfathering a minute, but the way Danny explained it is changing the fixtures, and that's fine, in my mind.
Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. Okay, moving right along, we have staff support. So, Scott.
Thank you. My report is included in your packet. I also wanted to mention that administration did receive a referendum question from a member of the public, and on an preliminary exam by staff, it looks like it appears to follow what it needed to follow. And I don't believe we received any challenges. I haven't checked with Tracy since earlier today, but today was the last day to have any type of challenge, so we will be packaging that up and passing it along to the county. Just wanted to update that today. I didn't have that information until close of business today to finalize. So thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott? Hearing none. Matt is out. Danny.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Danny?
Will we be talking about the open space requirement soon?
I am not sure. We are still discussing when to bring that forward for discussion.
So I'll just give a little clarity because I didn't have a date to come back with it. It was an item that was brought up by the developer as an amendment to the PUD. I felt that there were other issues with that development that needed to be ironed out before the board addressed amending anything here for discussion. So there might be issues with that development that doesn't move it forward at all, and I didn't feel like we needed to spend time discussing an amendment that doesn't need to be amended. So that's why it's not for me.
But comment, your staff report didn't reflect the 40%. So will you update your staff report then for that development to put it in context at 40%?
Yes, once we have more direction of that development, we will.
But it went to, I'm not trying to argue with you, but it went to the plan commission, and a recommendation by staff was made to the plan commission that in general, the staff agreed to it, but with that 40%.
Yes, when we get direction for, because we're still waiting on the developer to kind of give us direction on how they want to proceed at this time. So when I update my staff report, yes, it will reflect that that is something that staff is calling out will need to be met in order for it to move forward without the tax amendment happening.
Because in addition to the 40%, there's 40 feet open space on one. And that was not your original report.
No, they're asking for a variation on that. That was listed in the list of deviations. You're talking about the 40-foot landscape buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a requested deviation.
But I guess in the future, I'd like to see staff's comments regarding that, because I did not see that brought up in the staff.
Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions for Danny? Okay. Hearing none, thank you. Chief?
I don't have any additional information. You have to answer any questions.
We heard from you,
Yeah. Thank you. It was a valuable meeting, insightful tonight. Anyone have anything additional? I'm sorry, for Chief. All right, Brad.
My report is in this thing. We set up the ice rink yesterday with the park district, the fire district, and the township was. So it's filled waiting for the ice rink.
Okay.
And then on another note today, I attended a notice of status hearing to the Illinois Commerce Commission. It's the state of Illinois versus the BNSF regarding the railroad crossing of 47. The BNSF is delaying the process, so this is the next step that IDOT is taking. This is the second one I've attended. And it got continued again until February, but IDOT did slip and say they've extended the letting date again until June of 25. So just want to let you guys know that.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. We did have a question today too about that specifically. I'm trying to think of what meeting we were in. But oh yeah, yeah, that it did come up. So wonderful. Thank you. Any questions for Brad? Michael.
There are two businesses that are very close to getting ready to open. Bright Path, the daycare center, and 95 Park and Cilantro, the Mexican restaurant, and Sugar Grove Center. I've been in touch with both owners about helping them with a grand opening, which both should be scheduled soon.
More tacos.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, Starbucks.
Yeah, I was just
I
gonna
saw
say,
that.
there's a lot of middle school kids.
Yeah, I know, but I saw the fence going up around the property. Something going on with Starbucks?
Well, once they pick up their Fox Metro permit, it should be any day.
Okay.
That's the last thing they're going to do for the building permit. So they're getting ready to start.
Okay. And we'll do a groundbreaking hopefully before once they have their permitting.
Yes.
If you can get a shovel in it.
Right. We'll shovel snow. We'll do whatever it takes.
Get some hair dryers.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Trustee reports. Trustee Michaels.
Nothing.
Thank you, sir. Trustee White.
I just want to say that it was very nice to see Irv honored today. I had to appear before him a number of times as an attorney, and I worked with him when I was on the planning commission. And, he does a great job. He did a great job. It's a nice honor to see him. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Trustee Lindy.
I'd like to second the comments about Irv. I worked with him on the plan commission, and he's very, very easy to work with, and he did a great job. I attended the Sugar Grove Library District Board meeting on the 18th. They're looking at potentially becoming a fine-free Sugar Grove library. So they're looking at a bunch of different things, a lot of exciting things happening there, so check out the website and what's going on. Also box of Girl Scout cookies or?
I was gonna ask if you wanted those again.
Did you? This will be my 13th year.
Wow, that's impressive. I think you deserve a Medal of Honor for that, to be honest.
Girl Scout Cookie Day.
Yeah. Thank you, Heidi.
The s'mores is the last year for the s'mores. If you like s'mores, gotta buy them now.
Oh, I love that.
I know. That's my second favorite.
Trustee Merritt?
Nothing new. It was also nice to see Mary. Have you read that directly to her? That was nice too. But yeah, nothing else to report.
Thank you. Welcome back to school.
Yeah,
by the way.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Trustee Bonnie?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Trustee Shomas?
I need to, I've been woefully behind with my time at the Park District, so if Dawn was wondering where I was, yes, so I need to follow up with those guys. I think I probably missed 2 or 3 meetings, so that's on me. I'll look to have an update at the next meeting for us.
Wonderful. And I'm going to touch base with you because I have some things, maybe, questions or just things to share with
Yes.
that when you're there.
Okay.
Thank you. Everyone, President's Report, obviously Happy New Year. I hope everybody had a very nice holiday. We did have a meeting today with the Enhancement Committee as we move forward in the last, quarter of the year. There's still $5,000 worth of projects that they can potentially put in front of this body for approval. So we're working toward that end. We will be putting out, while the Enhancement Committee does want to be involved with the discussion regarding logos and animal, mascot, kind of whatever it may look like, we will be putting that out to the public for public involvement. So that will be going out as a notification. Here, Scott will be working on that with Tracy. So we'll hopefully get a group of folks together that want to brainstorm, create ideas, and then bring them back to the board. So at the moment, that's what we're working on. Obviously we're nearing State of the Village in preparation for that presentation. That's all in the works as well. So, but that's all I have. But we do have a need to move to executive session, hopefully for not too terribly long, under the Open Meetings Act exception to discuss personnel, specifically all department heads. And then with no action being needed, we would adjourn from there. So can I get that motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
I have a first out of trustee Heron and a second out of trustee Bonnie. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Shomas?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.